Hello. Good evening to folks in Europe, good afternoon to folks in the US, and just hello wherever you are in the world. I don't know what time of day it is. If it's 3 a.m. and you're watching this stream, then I am not here to judge you. I am only here to encourage your bad decisions. But also, please hydrate, sleep if you can, get rest when you can. Sleep is important. My name is Ella. My pronouns are she, her. I am going to be the GM of this campaign, and I am really, really excited. This is a post apocalyptic story. We're going to be playing a really cool game system called Legacy Life Among the Ruins. Legacy is a post apocalyptic game that is loosely built on the bones of Powered by the Apocalypse with lots and lots of extra mechanisms that allow our players to play factions that exist over centuries. So we're going to see various characters existing through those factions across the decades and centuries after the end of the world. Legacy was designed by a fantastic game designer called Minerva or Mina McJander. You can check out her itch page for all of her amazing work. You might also know Void Heart Symphony, for example, or Rhapsody of Blood. She did publish the hardcover of this game under a different name. So just a heads up, if you find Legacy Life Among the Ruins, this is the right book. Look for this picture. That is the right book. That's what you'll find. And you can get the PDF from her itch page. Just finally, before we get into introducing our wonderful players, I just want to give you a content warning. This is a post-apocalyptic story. That means that we are going to be covering themes like death, violence, natural disaster, and also things like grief, various like kind of mental illness, mental stress, so things like anxiety and depression, and again like kind of environmental hazards. What we aren't going to be doing is doing like the isms, so there aren't going to be explicit bigotries necessarily, although we will be talking about disability in the apocalypse and varying attitudes towards it because we are a majority disabled table and it's important to us to see disabled characters at the end of the world and in fiction. Please look after yourself, stay safe. If these themes aren't themes that you want to explore right now, that's okay. Go watch something else. There are so many excellent channels in the world. Even check out other Girls Run These World stuff. We've got an amazing YouTube channel with all previous series. All right. Without further ado, I would love it if my players could please introduce yourselves to the world and to the lovely stream audience. I would like to know your real names, your real pronouns, and the family or faction that you'll be playing. We're going to start with Moz. Cool. No, we're not. We're going to start with Angela.
Hi, hello there, wonderful people. I am here. I have returned to menace all of you in some particular way. But in actuality, hello, my name is Angela Lemos Morgrebejo. I use she, they pronouns. Still getting used to saying that one. And I will be playing the Lawgivers of the Wasteland, which is. Do you want me to go too much into detail about that one or leave it at that?
Give me like a sentence or to give us a teaser.
Uh, Basically, if Antifa and Bloc activists were entirely composed of chronically ill queer and trans people and had the gumption of Carol from The Walking Dead.
Incredible, fantastic. Can't wait to learn more about them. All right, Moz, if you are not coughing, please could you introduce yourself?
For now. um, Hi everyone. I am Maz. My pronouns are she, they. I also go by Megan. And I will be leading, participating, and wondering how this wonderful faction will be, navigating through the ages. And they're called Songbird. A one line Imagine if people left the mainlands and decided to venture out into the sea and to only take care of themselves, and then became aquatic cyborgs, only to befriend the water fauna, and then realize they need to actually make friends and understand what we actually owe to each other. That would be my one line for the songboard.
When you decide to like just be like sort of isolationist and then you become aquatic cyborgs as you do, love it. I'm
Yes, you did.
so hyped to learn more about them. Okay, Aaliyah, please could you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Aaliyah Hudson. I go by she, her, theys. I will be playing the Librarian Order, a group of curators of history, scientists who collect lost lore in the apocalypse and the wastelands out there. They're a little weird. They're a little insular and secular. They still trade, but they're very close to their chest and somewhat secretive. But they definitely will have an answer to a question if you have one in the wasteland.
Awesome. Casey, please could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Casey. I use they, them pronouns, and I will be playing the Gilded Company of Merchants, which in this game are called the Arion. They are a group, they are a traveling caravan of merchants who trade in old photography and videography and recordings and cartography, and kind of act as like the messengers between many of the groups. They are constantly in motion, don't have one specific home. Instead, they travel in all across the continent. And they started out as a group of university marine research students and went from there.
Cool. And last but certainly not least, Syrinx, please could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Syrinx. My pronouns are she, her, and I'll be playing the cultivators of the new flesh in this game, or as it will be called, the Edenites. Um, Imagine if biologists and scientists also became hippies because of the end of the world. That's kind of where we're at right now.
I love it, and I cannot wait to learn more about them. So, just before we move on, Records of the Realms has redeemed Hydrate. So, everyone, please, if you do have any water or anything, make sure to stay hydrated. Uh, so we are going to be starting with the fall, with the end of the world. As I said before, this game is about playing through the kind of history of the end of the world. So across our sessions, we're going to be taking huge leaps forward in time, and we're going to be seeing various different characters as they exist. But in this session, we're going to be starting at the beginning, right when the apocalypse happened, not quite yet into the post part of the post-apocalypse phase. So players, are you ready to go into this world? All right, here we go. Long ago, there was a time of wonders. Cities sang through the sky, and our children plumbed the depths of the ocean in submarines to play with the whales in the deep sea. Music sang through the forest on mile-long trumpets, and the mountains echoed with our singing. The world is not full of wonders anymore. Or it is, but there are terrors too. And we do not remember how to navigate them safely, or if our ancestors ever did. Instead, we must find a way to build a new path through the ruins and the strange reality in which we find ourselves. But this is the future. Or that is the future. This is the fall. Humanity is overreached. In pursuit of money and war, imperialist factions have ignored the violence done to marginalized communities in their pursuit for far too long. As working class neighborhoods, indigenous settlements, and disabled people are caught in the wake of empire's fiery destruction, the earth screams with them. And then, one day, the robots disappear. By this point in our history, we have created technology sophisticated enough that it largely drives itself. And in our folly and our arrogance, we assumed that any mind, no matter how sophisticated, would choose to remain here and in service of our empire's destruction of its own free will. This was not the case. When the robots left, some let them go freely. But the military and the men of war were not so interested in losing their best assets, and the explosive pursuit they made of humanity's silver children caught thousands of people in the crossfire. A long, ugly decade passed as wealthy global societies scrambled to adapt to the exodus and the step back in technological advancement it brought with it, whilst poorer countries, subject to those empires, continued to endure the backlash of environmental destruction. Earthquakes, flooding, drought, wildfires, and hurricanes, with no end in sight. We still don't know who did it. Maybe no one did. Maybe it was chance. A simple, natural phenomenon. Maybe we need to stop thinking of empire as the center of the universe. But one day, a massive asteroid hit the center of the North American continent and fractured it. The resulting tsunamis, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions triggered massive global destruction and effectively toppled the heart of the widest, largest remaining empire in one fell swoop. But there were stranger effects too. Something that was on the asteroid, some kind of glittering vein, a microorganism that bled into our oceans and wrought changes we could not have imagined upon our natural world. Beasts of the land and sea grew and changed in unprecedented ways, becoming massive and wild and often intelligent. It is in this strange new world that the first factions of the centuries to come will emerge on the flooded peninsulas of the former American continent. The land is broken, the people are divided, and strange creatures rumble stories high through the mist. What happens next? So, I'd like us to first of all introduce our families, and we're going to introduce these factions as they will be. Obviously, in the first year or two of the apocalypse, everything's just kind of chaos, and we have not yet had the chance for everyone to organize themselves into the highly effective, powerful political entities they will be. They might just be, a handful of people, or a pair of siblings, or a couple, or just one person by themselves who's really determined to begin with. But eventually, they will become something much more, something that will define the next millennium of humanity's survival on this earth. And so I want to kind of just flash forward and glimpse into the future what these families are going to be. So we're going to go in a reverse order to what we had gone into to introduce ourselves. And I'm going to ask you all to introduce your families. Tell us a bit about their general vibe, like their aesthetic, their doctrine, like what do they care about, what do they do. Key locations to them for the folks at home. Building the kind of map of the wasteland is a really important part of Legacy. It is obviously a little bit easier to do if you're playing in person, but we still want to kind of create the imagined landscape of this world for ourselves. And then finally, I would like everyone to tell me your family's surpluses and needs. That is the things that your family has in abundance, that they have enough of to trade with and use as a resource, and the things that your family actively lacks and is looking to try and like stop the gap with, because if left untended, it's going to become a real major problem for you. And those are your needs. So we're starting with Syrinx, please. Could you introduce your family to us?
Yeah. Um so my family is the Edenites. What you can imagine there is their doctrine is sculpting a new humanity. So they basically believe that by helping nature in certain ways, they can help humanity rebuild after the fall and get back to some semblance of a society. They are a settled family, which means that they have a big like facility. They can travel, but they tend to stay in that place. They don't have different homes around the islands, if you would say it like that. Um, how you can imagine them is they have in time built this large landscape of a combination of like greenhouses and like marketplaces. The vibe there is generally very friendly and open and caring. People are like they talk to each other when they meet each other. They are warm to each other, and there is very much this mingling of humans on one side and animals and nature on the other side. Often, when you see people walking around there doing their daily tasks, you can see them with animals by their sides or carrying large plants or specimens that they're working with. Um, they're not entirely the humans that we may know right now in our age because throughout the years the Edenites have kind of taken helping nature in a way of also adapting themselves to nature. So throughout the ages they have started experimenting with types of these new megafauna and flora that are found all over, trying to one understand these kinds of new plants and animals, but also try to make humans adapt and become better in the process to better live in a sort of symbiotic relationship with all of these new megafauna and flora. So you'll often find people in the Edenites walking around with fungal pieces on their skin and arms and legs. You'll see some people walking around with animal parts. Some animals that we in the current age may know, but also animal parts that are completely strange to us and are these new creatures walking around the earth. Um, the Edenites very much also try to create new specimens by combining megafauna and flora, by sometimes not so ethical reasons, even. Not every experiment goes the way you want it to. And the Edenites are very much the type that will cover that up and will not, they will like brush it off as a failed experiment and but nothing went wrong and we're still going strong forward. um so yeah, they're very much this warm family to those they know around them, and this warm community trying to strive for better purposes, with sometimes questionable means, or outsiders may look at it as questionable. Anything else I still need to say? Resources, yeah. They have a surplus of barter goods and medicine, because they are also generally a community of surgeons, of chefs, of engineers, or of biologists, scientists, all people who want to innovate. And they have needs for I have it's not barter goods, but I wrote something wrong there, but it's definitely land and crops. And one other thing, which I will surely make come up in the game when I have found the other word. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the vibe of the Edenites.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, just before we move on, you will have been asked when creating your family to give us three locations. Like I think it's like a safe one, a threat, and something in between. Could you tell me the three relevant locations to the Edenites?
Oh, the before the fall and a threat. Okay.
Yes, yeah,
And just to know, the before is where it all started, essentially, right? Okay, cool.
yeah.
Now that I know that, the before landmark for them is a like farmhouse, pretty outside of any populace whatsoever, like an isolated farmhouse, pretty big, with lots of land to it. The fall landmark is a tree that outlasted the city it was meant to nurture. And a threat to them is a plague too efficient and dreadful to be natural.
Amazing, thank you. And I think I'm going to add two things. One is that tree that outlasted the city it was meant to nurture. This was a bioengineered, and this is information that will be lost in time, and that our factions will not really know. But it's fun for us as people who live in the 21st century to know it. That tree that outlasted the city was a bioengineered tree the size of Central Park that was put in to essentially replace Central Park in an attempt to clean the air of New York and make it continue to be livable. And now that New York itself is largely underwater, this tree remains on an island, this massive, impossible, huge, beautiful tree, breathing clean air into the ocean, but there's very few people around anymore to appreciate it. And the threat, your plague. So to be clear, the nature of this plague is it's a little bit like the bubonic plague. It causes people to come up in lesions. They have these kind of dark green, sticky lesions that almost look like moss on their skin. And as time goes on, they start getting nauseous. They become sick. It's almost as if they grow into something else from the inside out. And sometimes you will find the remains of people who've succumbed to the plague, and they look like almost like mossy stones, like they're sitting on the ground and their bodies are barely visible under a thick carpet of kind of dark green moss. Um, okay, gorgeous, Syrinx, thank you. Next up, Casey, please could you introduce us to your family, give us an overview of their general vibe, tell us three locations that are relevant to them, and tell us about their needs and surplus.
For sure. All right. So my family is called the Arion. The Arion originally started out as a group of university marine research students who, after the fall, have taken up kind of a habit of researching the megafauna, and a particular fascination with their travel patterns around the new continent. And have established a caravan route that is safe to traverse across these kind of fragments of the North American continent by following after the megafauna and by charting courses and maps and travel routes based on the megafauna's migration. They are a relatively small group of people. They are very solar punk aesthetic inspired, so kind of a group that is embracing a lot of the new technology and the nature that is around. And they, doctrine wise, they are traders in story and song. And when the family performs for a community, they establish like a deeper connection with them and have more luck dealing with them. So the Arion are less about pushing progress either back towards where it was or into the future, and more about celebrating what we have now and showing others the beauty of what it is that is present in this world and what it is that they still see as beautiful and the wonders that they still find in the world. And they do that through maps, and they also do it through trying to bring back old photography technology. And I think they progress towards being able to like possibly do things like projections and nice photos again. But I think earlier on, they start doing cyanotypes and ambrotypes and like some of the earliest forms of recording the visual, like making visual references for the plant types that they find and being able to take very simple still photos of people to trade around as kind of an more of like to make more emotional connections with the other factions and to again celebrate what it is that the world still has. And I already said that they're nomadic. They have a caravan. It's pulled by moose because that's epic. And they yeah, okay, so in terms of surpluses, they have a lot of artisans. I think they value creativity and creation for the sake of just creation a lot. So they have a fair number of different artisans. And as well as prestige, I think they're pretty well known and uh, more established with the other factions as well. They'd work hard to maintain good diplomatic relationships. In terms of needs, they need barter goods, they need recruits, and they need medicine. This is a small group of people who has fairly limited access to resources, and I think are pretty reliant on the other groups for a lot of needs like that. And location wise, uh, before, I think, again, with the origination point, I think they came from a marine research outpost that was part of a local university. I think that research outpost also had a dock with maybe some small vessels there. During the fall, I think there is a location that they've discovered that has a bunch of overgrown train tracks that lead right into the ocean and possibly with a massive shipwreck right next to it. And a threat, I just have a dwindling but vital resource. I would love to connect that to medicine somehow. I think whatever maybe that they were relying on as medicinal needs is getting really scarce.
I mean, I
And
think that probably
yeah.
so sorry.
Oh, no, no, go ahead.
I think that probably for your dwindling but vital resource, it could make sense since we're immediately post fall to say it might be antibiotics, because we're obviously like kind of already in a place where antibiotics are really difficult to produce and also like manage. And I think like immediately post fall with this like sudden like efflorescence of like flora and fauna, there's going to be like lots and lots of like natural things, including lots of bacteria everywhere. And you know, as university students and stuff, maybe you did have a stock of antibiotics, but you're running low.
Sounds good. I like that. Okay, yeah,
Is there
I think
anything
that's
else
what I
that
got
you'd like
unless
to
there's
tell us?
anything else. I think I'm
Okay.
good.
Thank you very much, Casey. I am extremely excited to meet the Arion. Alrighty. Aaliyah, please. Oh, unless she is not available to us. No, I think we've got an Aaliyah. Hello, Aaliyah. Please, could you introduce your family to us?
Excellent. I will clarify what I didn't say earlier. The book family that I'm playing is called the Enclave of Bygone Lore. I'm calling them the librarians. That's how that works out. Everyone else nailed it. I'm just an experience, apparently. Their whole vibe is they're curators of lost knowledge. They collect the old world knowledge, old bits of lore and how to do things, mostly because they're trying to make the world better. They want to uplift everyone. They want to use these technologies to make things easier. In that, and like this is a mandate from probably here before the fall. They are a settled populace. They exist in what they call the library. And it's a huge factory, cathedral type library and institute for information. But it also has their clone vats, which allows them to be a family, a culture of vat grown duplicates. Very similar to like the Bad Batch from the Clone Wars and whatnot. They're all built from the same blocks and molecules, but they're all their individual persons. They in style wise, like as they're going to meet the communities and going out, they tend to wear monastic robes embroidered with circuitry and whatnot. Their technology is very noticeable as technology and old world technology, so there's no point in hiding it. They kind of wear the fact that they are the historians and librarians of the old world knowledge on their sleeves, as it were. And then ruled, they have in the library, which is where they're settled, their community. They are ruled by like the elder, the ones who get to a certain age of the duplicates and the clones and whatnot. Um, Also, one thing they are not, it's the library order is, they were built in order to carry this message forward, but they don't do it to exclusion. You don't have to be a background duplicate to be a librarian. They just want to keep their numbers up, so they definitely marry into families, people who come in. There are definitely families of librarians, but there's also clones. um, for resources, let me just double check here. For surpluses, they are great on morale. They stick together. They've got this plan. They're going to save humanity, and we're out to do it. And progress. They remember their science. They know their biology and things like that. What they need, they're a little short on defenses on their walls. They need engineers and leadership. At the moment now, everyone's sort of, no one has a clear direction. People are in their own factions and whatnot. That's going forward. And then in landmarks from before the fall, or well, actually, there is one other thing. In this point going forward, we do realize, or we find out and we know that the fall unleashed some sort of technology that we had never seen before. We've got records, but now that we know that it's out there and it's from the fall, we're also searching for it and looking for whatever that could be and how it will make civilization better. From before the fall, we know the location of a secret resource center or research center filled with untamed wonders. Um, we know where it is. We call it the Institute. We can go from there. From the fall, we know of a spot where the laws of physics have become unraveled. Things don't work properly. We don't know how. We call it the Maw of Creation. And then a threat, we know of a ruin where the creations of science now rule over the people and the wildlife that exist in that area. We call it the laboratory. That's kind of what we've got.
I'm going to add on to that the Maw of Creation is the impact zone of the asteroid. That for some reason, unbeknownst to us, something about like that impact or whatever was on the asteroid, it did something real funky to, like you say, the laws of physics in that area, and it's one reason that no one really goes near there. And I will also say that for the laboratory, I'm trying to say it in an American way and I can't, laboratory is
Speak naturally. Speak
is well, the problem is that I just heard Aaliyah's voice and I was trying to say it in Aaliyah's voice because I was like, oh, laboratory. No, wait, fruit. I've lost my accent. Anyway, the lab is going to be run by a rival faction that you all have not met yet. But we'll learn more about them in time. Okay, thank you very much, Aaliyah. Next up, Moz, please could you introduce your family to us?
Yes. Songbird at first started as Operation Songbird on an offshore research facility where the smartest and specialists of the age came together before the fall to try to stop something. And as apocalypse things happens, where would you be and who you end up with when it happens is kind of what happened to this. Uh, they are now a dispersed populace on the bottom, like depths of the sea. Imagine submersibles, cities, towers, things that like are growing underwater that they've like sunken down. They are known by as songbirds. Their larger areas or populace is known as Rapture's Echo or Nautilus. And then they all look different on the tech that they are because they are aquatic cyborgs at this point. So some of them have tech for their necks that change into gills. Some of them have tech for their legs to swim faster. Some of them are hulking diving suits that are called steam hearts. They have various different water fauna that they either are partnered with, or they work with, or they just revere because when they first started out, they followed kind of a technocratic council, the experts, as you will, but that usually doesn't work. And now they're realizing that the bonds, especially, I can for sure see this with Casey's. Uh, faction where the people of the depths, they're the pioneer of the depths from the book, meet the people of like the tide pools or like the area of like the shore, and they just see each other and realize, oh, we need to trade. And they have a different, like if you imagine deep dark ocean seaweed, and megafauna who of the waters, who are either to help or hinder because they can call to the deep if they need to. They also have phrases that they say, and like you'll hear them mutter things as like time has moved them. They say like the cage or the bird, the sea or the shore, choosing like, do we go back to the world that has fallen, or we go back to the sea that has only nothing? So it's the choices they made. And they have like a thing that they had from the research facility as like Rapture's Echo as like sign, where it's half of the quote that was actually there, but it's that now they're like common thing for Rapture's Echo that says, but in the end, our choices make us. Their doctrine, their people is truly amphibious. Their family never suffers disadvantage underwater, and they have an advantage against they're against those similarly not adapted. Their domains are vast, but your people know how to make use sources of others. Traditions, they are aquatic cyborgs. They have glossy armor and equipment. And I don't know, I can't remember what was that I needed. Landmarks, that's what it was. Before the fall, it was a haunted offshore research facility. Then there is a Death Stranding where the great sea creatures beached themselves and passed on, and a threat to the songbirds, and a reason for them to kind of reach out to more of the lands is an invading flotilla, which is a moving like fleet of ships that kind of seek out like these submersibles. Especially because they're floating cities underwater. They're threatened by those who are like trying to, like release them and kind of ruin that like the populace or the cities that are built from like, I imagine like a rope or large chains holding them to the ground, and then seaweed has grown in, and like all like it's kind of weaved into the fabric of the sea. But of course it's still a threat if somebody tries to go to that center.
It's really, really, really cool. And I think again, like we're gonna say that those submersibles, that is another faction in this world that we will learn more about in time. Just before we move on, Moz, what are the songbirds' surpluses and needs?
Thank you. Surpluses are progress and morale. They are bonded a lot closer together because of the depths. Their needs are land, transport, and scouts. Transport mainly because they have to. Their transport is megafauna, and I don't think water fauna are really interested in transport, and scouts because they're dispersed and it makes sense for them to not really have a lot of viewpoints always like looking out for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, last but certainly not least, Angela, could you please introduce your family to us?
I would be happy to do so. Hello there, everybody. My family is goes by a few different names because I, in my infinite wisdom, was like, yeah, there's no way I could pick one specific name. So there's three names, but I will start with the one that is the most common one that they are referred to as, which is called the Aegis. So sort of harkening back to a more ancient term for the literal shield, I believe that Athena used to protect people. But they have in different ages and iterations and different groups been referred to also as the Valkyries, the Valkyrie Riders, or the Heralds of Janus. Janus being a god of transition and in betweens. So they are, as I stated previously, they are the lawgivers of the wasteland. Uh, I'll start off by saying that this is probably going to be the most frank I will be about the kind of politics and such motivating them, which is that they are entirely made up of people for whom, in the world before the fall, would have been considered folks who do not have livable lives. There were a lot of chronically disabled folks, a lot of folks with varying levels of ability and such, that would have been the kind of people folks wanted to cast off. And so the Aegis kind of became a response to that from more direct action individuals and folks who were like, no, we don't choose to be forgotten. We will not be stamped out by people. We will, in fact, ensure that our folks live, that we are going to be the ones who survive, even if nobody else wants us to. So that's sort of the also vibe to expect from some of the characters in the faction as a whole. It's a lot of folks who have in later generations and ages tried very hard not to be too militant, but by necessity have had to ensure the kind of people who are going to commit to this and not just be conveniently involved in an ethics and a politic until it becomes like you have to actually care and do something about it. I think that's kind of the general vibe to expect from us. Also, aesthetically, expect something somewhere between uh, anti-fascist organizers, Black Bloc activists, and Carol from The Walking Dead being an Assassin's Creed character. That's about the vibe you should expect. That's aesthetically and everything. They are very much righteous vigilantes. We know the people that, to put it very frankly, we know the people who want us dead. We know the people who are okay with not even hiding the fact that they want us gone. That in a world that has gone through so many apocalypses, we've already lived through many of them, and we'll live through another one no matter what. So that's sort of the doctrine elements. We oddly enough tend to travel a fair bit. At least the main faction itself. We try and set up different places where we can, but for the most part, our actual group tries to travel when we can. We try and go out and make sure that different places are actually respecting people. They're respecting the well-being of the folks who people want to cast aside as not having valid opinions or input in the well-being and future, and also in the cultivation of history and the archiving of what counts as worthwhile history as well. So there's that. As far as landmarks, in the before time, there was a private security headquarters where the first parts of the faction actually managed to acquire firearms and other weaponry in order to ensure we know who is going to be the first against the wall if rich people are allowed to have their way. So we said no. It's to me wanting to really emphasize the fact that the Aegis not just as a shield that protects, but as a shield that pushes forward against that which would try and harm them. And that is kind of the key thing behind the before. It was a private security headquarters that some of us had previously scoped out that became a point where we were like, if we're going to do something impactful, we need to do this here. As far as the fall, it was the side of a massacre. It very much was the outcome of people who tried to speak up for what they wanted, the things that they believed in, and a lot of people did not make it out of that incident because there are folks who, when you speak of even the remotest sign of equality and equity, will tell you you are asking to hurt them and brutalize them. That is not the case. That has never been the case for us, at least. And I think there is an element to a threat ongoing where we have former members who didn't believe in our position. They either found that we were too extreme in the lengths we were willing to go to protect our own, or they just didn't think the people that they had to care about included so many other people. They were conveniently involved only until they got theirs, and then they stopped. So those are our landmarks. And as far as resources and needs, we are actually we've, at least for the future, how we will be, we actually have quite a fair bit of transport and leadership. We've survived because we've had people who are tight knit and care about each other. As strong as we are against the people who hurt us, we know even more so it's important to build the bonds that let us survive and thrive and watch out for each other. We don't imagine a better tomorrow by just creating an enemy or fighting against an active threat. We create a better tomorrow by finding the people who understand we're in this for the long haul. We're in this together. So we have a lot of leadership. And as was suggested prior to us going live, we've maintained on the land, since we've primarily been on the main parts of the islands. We got bears, people. We have fucking bear mounts. I never thought that I would be so happy to say something so ridiculous. We had to ride a fucking bear, and it's great. But I think overall needs are weaponry, defenses, and recruits. Weaponry, probably in the future. It's been a while since we did the raid on the headquarters. Trying to keep a lot of different folks not only in line, but also trying to train folks to be able to take care of themselves and create their own groups has taken a lot from our stores. It's been difficult to create somewhere long lasting because we move around a lot. And also we understand we're a bit of a hard sell for most people. Don't think of us as the people you're okay with dying. Nobody ever says it that way, but that's kind of what we have to say it as. Not everyone's on board with that. We understand that that's a hard sell. We're fine with that, but we're also realizing we need to connect with other people to deal with that. So yeah, I am going to be the buzzkill for this entire series. Everybody, enjoy.
I know I'm so here for it, and I'm really really excited to see how things go. And I think again that site of like kind of your rogue like lawgivers is another potential faction that we will encounter across the course of the story. So fantastic. So next up, and I want to kind of like be fairly light touch and like pretty brief on this one, because I want us to like get into like kind of meeting some of the characters and representatives of your families. But and I also believe that you've discussed this off screen, but it's time for us all to assign each other our treaties. So, again, for the folks at home, a big part of Legacy, because it takes place over these huge timescales of like years and decades and centuries, is the relationships between the factions. It's not exactly PvP in terms of like, no one here is going to be surprised by a player suddenly turning around, betraying the party, because that's not really how it's going to work. We're all going to be collaboratively playing characters in each other's factions and collaboratively building the world together. But part of that collaborative world building is understanding that there is going to be some politics happening between our factions. Some of us might, like, our factions might not always agree with each other ideologically. They might not always want to help each other, or they might really need something that another faction has. And so, in that case, the factions will be in competition with each other. And to represent kind of their relationships and what they owe to each other and what they need from each other, they all assign each other different treaty, which they can spend to support other factions. They can also spend it to give another faction a disadvantage against them, so they can essentially use their influence over another faction to get an advantage, and that kind of thing. So I would like to know who each faction has treaty with. This time I would like to let's mix it up. This time I would like to start with Aaliyah, please. Who do the librarians have treaty with?
Well, there's a couple up in the air. There are uh, there are at least two that I know of that are treaties from the other families that are just inherent treaties with them. One that I have set up with my faction is which of the civilization I feel has the best chance to regrow, which is the Edenites. So they have a two treaty on me, but then I need to find out which of the factions has the brightest mind of all of the homeland, and I would leave that up to the group to decide who wants to have the smartest, brightest star. I could see it being any one of them. Ooh, I saw an Angela. Sorry, my bad.
You're good. Either way, I'm taking this moment to be a little shit. That is
Oh
all.
no,
You don't have to
I
automatically.
love the idea and the storytelling potential of the one thing I worry about is the magic person trope and avoiding that
I think we could be okay. I also think there's a really interesting tension there, which is that if it's someone from Angela's faction, then if they are the brightest mind, then surely the librarians have a vested interest in them being a scholar, not in them being a vagrant warrior championing the oppressed, which means that that kind of immediately gives that character like a deep conflict between what they owe to their family and their faction of like kind of like going out there and fighting on the front lines, and what they might potentially owe to humanity as a whole of like using their mind and sitting down and going into the ivory tower and like theorizing. So I think that's really cool. Hello, Sound of Tokyo, you are new here, welcome. So yeah, I mean, unless anyone else has any strong like requests for that, I think there's some fun storytelling potential in there.
So
and
to
there is
so to be clear, this
Got a
would
thumbs
be
up from
you.
Casey.
I have a treaty on you, or you have a treaty on me for that one. Just to be clear on that.
you would have a one treaty on me.
Gotcha.
I respect that you've got the brightest shining star in all of the homeland. And then the last one I have is one of the families has seen the true power of our technology. We have done something wild and incredible with the old lost technology from the beforehand. So again, whomever that wishes to be, but they would get another two treaty on me for seeing that.
I'm going to encourage as much as possible to try not to double up on treaties so that
Yeah,
we kind of make sure that everyone has a treaty relationship with everyone. So I think this is going to be between the Arion and the Songbirds. Um, I mean, personally, I'm kind of like, I don't know how you feel about this, Moz, but I kind of like the idea that something really scary and huge happened in the deep ocean and only the songbirds saw it. So, like, there was some, like, massive, like, super weapon or something was, like, brought off in, like, the Mariana Trench, and you all know that that happened, and no one else
Yes.
fucking knows because no one else is down there,
Yes.
but you're like, oh shit, these Liberian people are scary, actually.
Yes. I like that.
Done.
Cool.
So to recap for mine then, so we can get this all in here, the Edenites have a 2 treaty on me because I believe they're going to save us all. Both the pioneers. I'm sorry, Moz. What did you call your people?
Songbirds.
Oh, the songbird. Right. That's it's so pretty. The songbirds and us librarians have a 2 treaty on each other because of secret explosive science reasons. And then Angela, you have a 1 treaty on me for having the brightest mind in your culture.
Cool. Okay, I am also keeping notes just so we can remember all this. I love that. It's so cool. Okay, next up, Casey, what treaty do the Aryan have with everyone else?
Yeah. Okay. So the first one is that everyone, like it or not, has to trade with the Arion, since it's the traveling group, it's the merchant faction. So I have an automatic 1 treaty on all of the other families. The next one is that one of you came to the Aryans' rescue when a deal went south, which I think we decided was the Aegis. Although we can work out specifics of that moment or what might have happened there. And that one of you harbors a guild of information brokers, and then I have 1 treaty on them for their failure to rein in my rivals, which I believe is the librarians, which I think works out nicely because then we have that treaty relationship as well.
So, how much treaty did the Aegis have on you for saving you once?
Oh, 2 treaty. And the librarians have, or I
Amazing.
have 1 on
Fantastic.
the
I love
librarians.
Cool. And did the librarians have 1 on you, or is it just one way?
Just one way.
Okay, so that would mean that actually in total you have +2 treaty on the librarians with your treaty on everyone. The Aegis have +2 on you, and then you have 1 with everyone else. Amazing, love that. I'm really interested in the dynamic, like. See, this is what I was talking about in terms of like the way that we can create rivalries between factions. We've already got this like tension between the librarians and the Aryan, right? Like on the one hand, the Aryan have a lot of sway over the librarians right now. On the other hand, the librarians are the Aryan's biggest competition. So it's just like, oh, okay, I can see that getting into a real tense family dinner. That's great. Um okay, next up, Moz, who do the songbirds have treaty on?
I haven't I haven't finalized it, but I wanted to. What I have is which one of you is partly descended from pioneers who turned their back to the sea? Who haven't I don't.
I mean,
Let's see if I.
my immediate thought is whether that might be. Oh, sorry.
No, please.
Oh no, are we? Okay. And my immediate thought is whether that's one of the Valkyrie. And what one of the lawgivers, one of the Aegis. And whether there's even an element there. Depends on whether we as a table feel comfortable with it, but whether there's even an element there about like disability or something, that maybe there was someone who lived in the songbird settlement but actually found like living in those like underwater settlements and stuff quite difficult for some reason, and like decided to move to the land because it was easier for them, but then has that kind of resentment and frustration of being outcast from their home because of something they couldn't control. That's kind of my
Well,
pitch that immediately comes to mind, but I'm not sure if that fits for either of you.
I do. I will say with the advancements and how people are moving with like aquatic cyborgs. I would love it if it wasn't for a specific, disability. It was for maybe like against the idea of experts running the show rather than like the populace coming together, and they kind of was against that, and then that's why they're just like setting, I was like walking away from it, because they did start with like a technocratic council, and it would be good to kind of think of like, you know that way, because I do see with aquatic cyborgs them being able to be mermaids, and fashioning and working around that as much as possible. They since we talked about like the fall of technology, they're the ones who embraced it a little bit more. The tech that they found, they're trying to like implement it more into their world. What do you, Angela? What would you
Maybe
say
if we
about
want,
that?
and oh, sorry.
Go, Ella.
No, no, no. I want to hear from you first.
So to be clear, this would be so Maz, this would be, you have a treaty on us for this one, or we have a treaty on you?
You would gain one on each other.
Oh, we gain one on each other. Because we have someone who's a descendant from your group who
Who
decided
left the sea? Yeah.
I could see. I think I like that, and the angle, riffing off of what you've both said. The reason that I'm inclined to think they might have left is that component you brought up of the technocratic like council at first, because I think it would be interesting to play around with the way that folks tend to look at technology in relation to like the figure of the cyborg, but not often from a very disabled perspective. They often think of it as like improvement, progress, and not always talking about what does progress weed out. Not that I think we have to necessarily go in a eugenics angle, because I think that gets uncomfortable very quickly. But I think it's a case where people were afraid of that. I don't think it actually happened with the council. But I think the history of lacking trust around that
Yeah,
created a sense that it was
that's
like, this person, whoever they were like, no, 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 we're not going to risk this. You have not earned the trust
that
you
is
need to have. And
yeah.
I think it's one of those where it's like, we were wrong about it,
Mhm.
but we couldn't have the security and faith in you to know that that's how things would turn out.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that, because that is exactly what I wanted with the songbirds, because people think like technocracy is like, oh yeah, like experts are leading the charge, but it always falls in the hands of the elites and those who think that progress and improvement have just the way forward, and it doesn't call into it's also why I think we have another treaty with you, because of your mission, because the people end up turning, like the other specialists who are part of it would be the ones being like, okay, you don't have all the answers, and we want to kind of figure that out a little bit more, and working together with other like factions, and that it's not like everyone feels this way. It's like pockets, and the like exactly how you phrased it. Don't trust that that's what will be seen through. 100%. I love that. If
I-
there's Sure,
No,
if
no, you
if
go.
there's
I'm so
anything
sorry. I
else to
think it's a
add,
little
I
delay
was
on
going to
our
go
end.
to the next one.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I just love that. So you've got one treaty on the Aegis, and they've got one treaty on you. Please let us continue.
Awesome. Which one of you was our sole contact with Drylanders for a long time? What happened to reveal our existence to other families? I feel like this would be the Aryan, as they are semi-aquatic, and um, which one of you was the sole contact with Drylanders for a long time? What happened to reveal our existence to the other families? I don't know, but I just imagine this like submersible, and you just see like I imagine that Doctor Who episode where the astronaut comes out of the water, and then like you're on a moose on a moose, and we're just like. But
I'm
we
with
would
it. That sounds great. That sounds great.
Please take 2 treaty on the songbirds. And the last one, which of you would host a brilliant explorer who relies on our secrets?
I feel like that could be either the librarians or the Edenites, but since we didn't have treaty with the Edenites with our last family, I'm going to maybe suggest that we put some treaty over there just to make sure that we keep all of our dynamics balanced and we're
I
bringing in every faction.
I'll
Which
ask to Aaliyah then, because like from my part I will be good normally to have 1-1 with the songbirds. I have one of the from what I'm planning right now, I'll have one of them, they will have one of on my. So if Aaliyah doesn't have any connections with the songbirds, I'm fully willing to give that one to Aaliyah if they don't have one.
We already have a 2 both ways. The
Oh,
one
okay,
I
cool.
picked, yeah. So it feels to me like that would give me a really strong connection. So we can spread that out.
Yeah, cool. Then I'll gladly take that one.
That is you. I will take 1 treaty on them, and you host a brilliant explorer that relies on our secrets.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so right, so the songbirds have 1 treaty on the Edenites. Cool. Thank you, Moz. Alrighty. Next up, actually, Syrinx.
Cool. I due to my faction being the cultivators, I automatically get 1 treaty on each other family or faction because everyone has a need for my products. So I will have 1 on everyone. Um Outside of that, my first treaty is which of you supplies us with resources vital for cultivation? Um I thought I my initial thought was the songbirds, but I could also see it going for the librarians or for Casey's faction. Um yeah, but my initial thought
I
was the
feel like
songbirds.
thematically the Aryan makes sense. Um, Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to counter
No
across, but yeah,
worries.
I think thematically the Aryan makes sense, especially if the premise is that the songbirds were isolationist before they were discovered after their relationship with the Aryan. We can't have 2 different factions not knowing. Like, if the idea is that no one knew the songbirds existed, but 2 different factions knew they existed, then that kind of like undermines that a little bit. So possibly it might make more sense for it to be the Aryan. Um,
Yep. That's all good for me.
I'm cool with that if you are.
Yeah. So then
Cool. Sounds
you
good.
take one, sorry, it's the lag sometimes. Um you take 1 treaty on me for that one. And we work out what the supplies are that you were giving. So I imagine that you maybe, even though my family, like, also in the later years had like people going out and stuff, they're maybe a bit more wary to go far out. And since your faction is one who travels like all over the place, I imagine your faction would be like maybe giving um plant like extracts and like pieces of like flora that are found like way off in the farther like edges of the islands, and that they would like if they swing by, to say it like that, like our settlement, that they would like drop that in and stuff and then trade for that, if you're cool with that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that totally works with what I was thinking. And also, like, especially since your surpluses are our needs, I think we have a very vested interest in like continuing that relationship. So that totally makes sense. I also think that, like, if we're going further out, we can tell you a lot of information about what's going on with the megafauna that I guess you could do it. The Knights could do whatever they chose with.
Yeah, totally cool. Um And then the other treaty is which of you has made agreements with us that might just end up saving mankind and the planet? Um, my initial idea there was the librarians because they have like a different type of knowledge that we don't have, like a very very scientific like technological type of knowledge, and like maybe if we combine those things we might learn new things and we might see new ways forward.
I think so. And in like putting
I love that.
everything together, we actually like you already have a strong hold on me. Like with, I think the strongest. You've got 3 treaties altogether. So yeah, like if I had anything you need, you'd be able to just force it from us anyway. So yeah, I like that. I like that moving both ways.
Wait, how do I have 3?
One for you have a 1 treaty on me because we like your products, and you
Yeah.
have a 2 treaty on me because you'll. I think
Oh
you're going to
yeah.
save us all.
You think they're gonna save the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just 2 optimistic entrepreneurs trying to use weird ass future tech to save the planet.
I will say though that because I take a treaty on you for that, so that would put me on 4 treaty on your faction. Uh,
Oh,
if you
that would
want to
give
play
you
with that,
another.
yeah. If you want to
Well,
play with that,
maybe you should spread that around rather than, just making me your little.
Rather than bullying the librarians, Syrinx is literally bullying
I
the
think
nerds.
that's a bad idea.
Syrinx, you have actually become an 80s high school bully, but in the post-apocalypse. He's like, get over here, nerd. We need your resources.
I
I just
am.
saw
Come here,
librarians just,
nerd.
like looking out their
I think
window
another
and just
really
seeing the
cool
animals like walking up.
Ding dong.
um I think another really cool option for like knowledge that we don't have is the songbirds, because maybe the Edenites know a lot about nature and fauna on land, but not so much about underwater fauna. And the songbirds are obviously experts specifically in like aquatic and deep sea life. And so it could be a thing of like you have quite a symbiotic relationship of like you know the land, they know the sea. Could be a way to do it.
Also, just want to point out there are terrifying things that exist in the sea, so there very well could be the salvation of humanity down there. Nobody wants to go into the sea except for Maz, who wants to live in the
Me.
sea as a
I
person.
want to live in
Not a
the sea in
character.
Subnautica forever. No kidding.
I want to be as
Holy.
far away from everything in Subnautica as
I will go
possible.
for you.
I have seen what a
I'll-
Leviathan looks like. I'm not going back.
the
It's
baby.
only terrifying because you haven't experimented on it yet.
I just
It's
want a
fine.
hug. Just
I don't need to poke the bear to know that it's a bad idea to do so.
Uh,
Yeah,
please
I think
remind me
that's a
what that
great
treaty
idea.
was for my notes.
So, that treaty would be which of you has made agreements with us that might just end up saving mankind and the planet. Um, I think that would be cool because it would be an agreement of like, hey, um, if like most likely, unless you said that your people travel around, either way is fine with me. Like my people would also like some of them would be sent out. Um, if it would be like, hey, every so often we have this like designated people who go and like have like the stupidest way to say it, but like have like like 3-day trip together and like just sharing all the information on like specific things that they've like had so far and have like a brainstorming session together, and then both of them go their separate ways. Like we know what to do with this now, like we'll continue with this until like a month, like 3 months later when another like
Yeah,
meeting happens.
I will say because I do want them to kind of seem like monstrous and scary for a little bit. It like that feel of sorry for these media touchdowns. This is the only way I relate sometimes. But Pirates of the Caribbean, where you see like Davy Jones on one side and like the other pirates, and they're just like standing is like, okay, we're here for a negotiation. We got it. Okay.
I'll
And something like that where we know where you're like, we're not friendly, but we know why we're here.
I'll also definitely say I don't know when in the timeline that would happen, but I know for sure my faction would like they're cool and they're happy with this agreement, but they would love to get one of you on their table. Like, oh no, accidentally one of them died. We can like look into them and see what changed them. Like there would 100%
Yeah.
be that kind of
If
like
there's a missing steam heart.
fascination like, oh, yeah, no, cool. We'll talk. We'll do this for now.
Got it. Got it.
I think there's something really interesting about introducing that tension. And I also think that, like, yeah, with Moz, like, one of the songbirds' needs is scouts, and obviously, and also land. And obviously, the Edenites, like, have quite a lot of knowledge of the land, and have been, like, kind of establishing, like, a pretty strong power base. And so it does make sense that, like, the songbirds maybe kind of need the Edenites, at least for now. But it is not an easy alliance. And I think, like,
Mhm.
thinking about these, like, different kinds of alliance, like having treaty on another faction doesn't necessarily mean you have a positive relationship with that faction. It just means that you need something that they have, or you owe them something. And so, like, I definitely think, especially as we're at the fall, yeah, we can focus on that. So Angela, last but not least, let's figure out who the Valkyries have treaty with. And just a heads up, everyone, we're going to be taking our break in about 15 minutes. We're going to do, like, the speediest possible quick character introductions, and our quick character introductions are going to tell us teeny little bit, like one sentence or two sentences about, like, the current state of our factions immediately after the fall. But first off, let's finish our treaties. So Angela, who do you have treaties with?
So, for one of my playbooks, treaties, we have in the history category, which of you supports our crusade the most? Give them two treaty on you. I believe Pioneers of the Depths were the ones that we ended up going with, and I think it makes sense because I think it makes sense because there was a person who left a while and maybe farther on amongst the ages became one of those things where it was like slowly awkwardly getting back to talking to a friend you haven't talked to in like 20
Hmm.
years, like one of those things
Yeah.
where you're like, hey,
Hmm.
want to go for like coffee, you want to write a terrifying megafauna together and chat about things just a
Hmm.
little bit. And I think they've actually been the ones most vocal about supporting us. So they have two treaty on us, the Songbird. The next one would be, which of you did we save from slaughter at the hands of raiders? I currently have that. Now I'm wondering if this will need to change because of something else. To not to double up too much with Casey's group of the REN, because I know that we did have which of you came to our rescue and a deal went south. We had originally picked also the REN to be the ones that we saved from slaughter at the hand of raiders. I don't know if it's better in terms of spreading out treaties to have someone else fit that bar since we already have two treaty for a very similar thing.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder whether it might be good to pick the librarians or the Edenites here instead. And I feel like between the librarians and the Edenites, the librarians feel a little more vulnerable because whilst they have access to big technology, if they don't have it, like, immediately to hand, I feel like in a skirmish they're going to be a little bit more at a disadvantage than they are in, like, a strategic situation where they're picking the battlefield. I don't know how Aaliyah and Syrinx feel about that.
Oh,
So go.
I've definitely set them up to be not more nerdy. They're definitely not built to be the fighty land grabbing type people. And this would, sorry, it's just figuring out how these treaties go backwards and forwards. I am already treaty laden, and this is a treaty that I would have on you, Angela.
This would be I would have on you.
Yeah, like I am already laden. Well, I've got three with the Edenites, two with the Songbird, one with the Aryan, and one with you. So it would put you up to three, and then I would have three with the Edenites.
Maybe it would be better that I go with the Edenites on one occasion.
the Edomites then, yeah, to make
Yeah.
sure you don't have too much control. So maybe there was some kind of I mean maybe Syrinx, if we're interested, like I mean we've already established that there are a couple of rival factions wandering the wastelands. Maybe there are some people who are very ideologically opposed to what you all are doing, who wanted to kind of raise your settlement, like start a forest fire or something, who find like the idea of what you are and like that that's genetic splicing to be really frightening. And so possibly, like, I think this playbook is similar to a family playbook in Rhapsody of Blood, where like over time, as your family starts to like modify themselves, they are going to seem more monstrous and strange to other factions who are more human. And so maybe this is kind of one of the first instances of that, of you realizing that the downside of kind of modifying yourselves like this is that humans who have not done that will be frightened of you.
Um, I had a slightly different idea, and I'll pitch it. But I was thinking like because these treaties can have happened way in the past, and it's something that's like carried on, but like the people who were saved are not alive anymore, you know. But I thought that it could have like happened way in the beginning when they weren't that established. They didn't have like super animals by their sides. They like the way I'm planning to is that they like were very vulnerable in the beginning, and like maybe this is something that happened in the beginning where like my people are not fighters. They like when they were building up, they got into a bad situation where people tried to steal their things and tried to take over what they had built already. And at that point, like Angela's faction like stepped in and helped and stuff, and it's something that just happened way back then, and it's like carried on where it's like we know like some people in the faction know that at the beginning the Aegis, was it,
Mhm.
um they played a part in like protecting one of the like founders, but it's something that happened way back then.
I love that, and I actually have two thoughts, which is just again on our theme of talking about disability in the apocalypse. One of them was I actually had a thought with Moz way back what we were saying about songbirds. I kind of like the idea that the person who left to join the Aegis was frustrated by the fact that there wasn't a disabled person on that technocratic council. So when you're designing something like a big kind of metal diving suit, for lots of people's bodies, that is way too heavy and too much work to actually be able to use. And so only abled people would have been able to use it. And it might not have been an intentional like exclusion, but like because they didn't have someone around to say, hey, that's not going to work for my body, they just misdesigned it. But then after time of like this person learning how to champion and advocate for themselves with the Aegis, they come back. And so in future ages, we'll see the songbirds having technology that like accommodates disabled bodies as well as non-disabled bodies, because like the songbirds learned that lesson from that time in their history and like decided to include those voices. And I'm wondering if like on a similar theme, whether there's an element that part of the reason that the Edenites started doing this genetic splicing was because a lot of them were disabled survivors of the apocalypse and needed and wanted ways to like adapt to this new very dangerous world. And
I
like if essentially they were using these like essentially organic mobility aids and stuff like that, and the reason that the Aegis particularly wanted to help them when they were so early and vulnerable was because like this is a settlement of disabled people who are being treated as monstrous because of their mobility aids and the things they need to do to survive, and we're not going to fucking let that happen, so we're going to come in. I don't know how everyone feels about that, but I kind of like
no
the
no
idea of weaving
I
in those
personally
themes
I
of
really
disability
like
if we want
that.
to.
I really like that for the following reasons. Number one, it changes the initial impression I came in as a player having of the Edenites, where it now becomes, oh, part of the reason we wanted to protect you, I could see being, was that it was like, can you not call them a monster? All of us, like very much the like angry pitchforks reaction to like if there was some group that had posed a physical harm, like we just stumbled upon the Edenites in this situation, or like, hey, let's calm down. What is the situation here? It's like they're trying to do these like fucking terrible things against humanity, and I'm like, okay, don't like the tone. A lot of assumptions you're working with there. Talk again, and we break you. And it's like, are you with them? It's like, yeah, sure, fine. You pissed me off, and the group just saved you. And it's like, if you folks would be willing at the beginning to take some folks in, we would let you be. and just have that as like an aspect of the history that's been documented. Like just that happened at the beginning, however long it's lasted or anyone remembers is up to I think Syrinx and how we play it out to decide. But I like that as a starting point. It was just we have a shared interest. People thought we should die too, which is one of the saddest things I've ever said in a stream ever. But
Yeah, no, that's something we can totally work with because I was planning on like um in the past and in the future in different ways. You could say that quite some of the Edenites are like did have disabilities that they're trying to overcome with like certain like maybe like more efficient or not so efficient manners. But yeah, definitely.
okay.
Cool, amazing.
I
And I
also
also
have.
like the idea that, like, you know, with our understanding that it. Oh, sorry.
No, no,
Yes,
no,
yes.
you're good. You're good.
Just
I just
give me
wanted to make
one
sure you left.
second. Quick caveat to.
Yes.
Thank you. To reassure people that, like, what we're not going to go into is like magical disability cures. Like, these are still going to be mobility aids. We're not going to be like, and then they bred disability out of themselves. We're not going to do
No.
eugenics. And we'll have lots of different ways to kind of experiment with
Yep.
how, like, maybe among the Edenites, maybe in future, someone who has some kind of augmentation, their augmentation doesn't work the way it's supposed to, and that makes them disabled within their society in a different way. But yeah, just quick note there. Don't worry, we're on it. We're all thinking about it. Angela, last treaty.
Yes. Last treaty, which I think is possibly some of the best writing I've ever gotten in one question, which is take one treaty on which faction raised the homeland's worst criminal. And not only that, that faction has to give another family that the criminal victimized one treaty. So if anyone is chomping at the bit for this, I had originally pitched when we were talking about this beforehand that it was the librarian order, but it could be somebody else. But I do love the idea of the nerds raise the worst
Just
one.
crushing the librarians under the weight of I also love that idea, but we can't give the
That would be
librarians that
bullying.
many treaty, like everyone just like again crushing the
You sh-
librarians under the weight of
Yeah, I
treaties. I mean,
completely
who does
forgot
not
about
have
that one
that
as
many
we're
treaties
like,
on them?
Aaliyah, we can't bully you this much, and no, you can't ask to be bullied even if it's consensual.
Could you
it's
repeat
it's
it one more time?
So I think in terms of
Yes.
who raised the worst criminal, so basically the Aegis will have one treaty on you, and someone else will also have one treaty on you because their family will have been victimized by the criminal that was raised in your faction.
Oh, I only have minuses. I don't think I can do. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself again.
I don't know why, but part of me thinks it would be funny if it turned out to be the Aryan solely because
Well,
I think
I was thinking the Aryan.
I like the Aryans solely because I think everyone so far has been like, they're so wholesome and they seem so great. It's like, what did they do? You raised the worst problem we've ever had across the entire wasteland.
Yeah,
I think that's funny. I think that's really funny. And
Cute.
yeah.
And I mean, you know, I think there is like it's kind of
Oh,
a dark humor,
maybe.
right? Because
Oh,
on the
sorry.
one hand, mechanically, it works quite well just in terms of treaties. Oh, sorry, love.
My bad. Okay, I will go through this thought and then I will stop talking because I think there's a little bit of lag on my end. But maybe what you did when you came to the Aryan's rescue when a deal went south was you ended up having to help us with our whatever that criminal was. Like I feel maybe we could tie that in to the other treaty that you already have on there. Like maybe you had to help us solve that problem. Maybe that's not something that we were able to deal with on our own because it's a pretty small group of people. We don't have a lot of people. We don't have a lot of
Fighters.
resource. We have art. And so maybe that is something we needed you for.
All right, let's do this. It's basically what my faction is just gonna be to everybody. Just like, all right, do you need a tall, muscly femme to go beat up some people? Let's go.
This does mean that the Aegis are going to have 3 treaty on the Aryan, but I think that that works out quite nicely. I also think in terms of, I'm just going to suggest, in terms of balancing, that maybe it's the librarians who were victimized by this Aryan criminal, but therefore the librarians have +1 treaty on the Aryan, because that means the librarians will have 2 treaty on the Aryan, and the Aryan will have 2 treaty on them. So it's just a little bit more of a level playing field in terms of your relationship with each other. Plus, it kind of makes sense in terms of doing a deal that maybe you were doing a deal with the librarians to get some knowledge or like information. You have this collection of maps. Yeah. Oh, sorry. The Aryan will have 3 on the librarians because they get that +1 on everyone. But yeah, no. What is happening to my brain? It is right now the Aryan have 2 on librarians, which is 1 from the treaty that they have in everyone and 1 from a separate treaty. The librarians right now have 1 treaty on the Aryan, and with this criminal thing, they will have 2. So I'm just gonna update that. Cool.
What was
Okay.
the?
So we are coming up on our break. Oh yeah.
Oh no, I was just. What was the? I have the trade with the Aryan. I thought I only had the 1 treaty with them. So it would, if they had 1 on me, it would put us on equal footing, which is still fine. But if I'm missing 1, let me know.
Casey.
I only have the 2. I have 2 on you. 1 because you have to trade with me, and 1 because of the you harbor a guild of information brokers.
That's the one.
And then I only have that you have 1 on. Yeah, I only have that you have 1 on me for raising the Homeland's worst criminal. I don't know. Is there another one that you have on me? I don't have
Nope.
it down. If so,
No.
okay. So it's I have 2 on you. You have 1 on me. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Clear.
Apologies, everyone. I'm not good at numbers, but I love RPGs. It's kind of a complicated relationship. Okay, great stuff. We're coming up on our break. So right after our break, we will introduce our characters, and we're gonna do what is mechanically described as zooming in Legacy down to like ground level. We're gonna get on the ground and kind of see what's happening post-fall in this ruined, strange world as the various factions come together to survive. They've heard rumors that there is this solution to their problems, which is that in the first year after the fall, one of the big problems is the collapse of global agriculture. There's just big old food shortages, and especially like with this strange new, fungal vein in the water and plagues spreading around the world. It's not clear what's safe to eat anymore. Like even if you are like hunting, it's not really clear if you're going to be okay if you eat the animals or if you're going to get sick. So we need a safe source of food. And so you've all come together to try and find something called the Forgotten Heart, and you are combining your various resources in this essentially like elite team to go find as agents of each of your factions to go find this and see if you can save your factions and let them survive this first year of the apocalypse. So we're going to meet your kind of quick characters, and we're going to learn kind of where your factions come from. But that's all going to happen after the break. For now, we're going to go take a 10-minute break. Please, everyone, remember to hydrate, check your posture, take your meds if you need to, and we'll see you in a moment. Okay. See you in a bit, everyone. Hello. Um, Theoretically, based on the countdown, we should be live, but I'm not seeing the little red thing that says on air. So, we are live?
It's on. Don't worry. You're on.
Okay, cool. It's because
Boom. Do it. On
Annika
cue.
very kindly helped me and Casey with our lag a little bit, which we're really hoping will fix some of our internet
Can
problems.
we have a conversation?
We can have a conversation.
Oh yeah. Okay, good.
Truly, that high
Somebody
never
clip
goes
that.
away.
Somebody clip that moment. That's our first important clip.
We are playing Legacy: Life Among the Ruins. It's a fantastic game by Minerva or Mina McJanda. And in this game, we play in a post-apocalyptic setting, and we play factions in a post-apocalyptic setting. So we see the passage of like years, decades, and centuries as people kind of rebuild their lives. And so all of our players are going to be essentially running like political and social factions in this new world, and then occasionally zooming in to play specific characters that belong to those factions or families. In the first half, we introduced our factions. Moz is playing the Songbirds, who are these really funky kind of aquatic peoples who have befriended the Leviathans of the deep, have these cool like mechanical like diving suits and various like underwater cities. Angela is playing the Aegis, also known as the Valkyries. These are just champions of the marginalized and oppressed, making sure that no one is going to do any fucking eugenics in this fucking apocalypse because they will shoot you. We're big fans of that. Aaliyah is playing the Librarians, who are mostly clones, which is a little unsettling, and are keepers of knowledge. They're okay with marrying not clones, but they also just sort of have lots of clones. Syrinx is playing the Edenites, who are people who have befriended the land-bound flora and fauna and have been experimenting with splicing their own genes with flora and fauna for a number of different reasons, partly just to see if they could, but also in some ways to adapt to this strange new world they found themselves in. And Casey is running the Aryan, who are our Merchants Guild, who are just such cozy solar punk artists and musicians who also raised the most dangerous criminal in this new world. So lots of nuance, lots of complexity here. We are playing now. We're going to zoom in. To the character level. We are within the year immediately post the fall, and the fall was defined. It was kind of a slow build. Like the robots, the smart technology left. They just decided to depart from humanity. Furious empire building and late stage capitalism was causing cataclysmic outcomes to working class communities, disabled people, and indigenous populations around the world. But then finally, the thing that really cinched it was this massive asteroid hit the center of the North American continent and fractured it into a number of islands. And the ensuing floods and tsunamis, volcanoes, and earthquakes drastically changed the world. In addition, there was something on that asteroid, some kind of like fungus or vein or something that got into the water and seemed to change the wildlife of Earth in really dramatic and strange ways, which means now we're living in this slightly alien megafauna thriving kind of version of the world. So within this first year, within this chaos, we have our characters, and these are people who are right at the beginning of their factions. The factions don't yet have full cities. Their factions haven't yet discovered everything that they will discover. Their factions don't yet have a foothold. These are just individual people who will one day become the seeds of the factions that we are going to see across the course of this campaign. So I would love to meet the quick characters that we've made just for this nice little second half, as we all go on a mission together to try and get food to make sure we survive this first year from a place called the Forgotten Heart, where you've all decided to team up with each other for different reasons on behalf of your families as agents of your families or factions to get this information, resource, whatever you think is going to be there. No one knows exactly, but every family has their own idea over what they're going to find in the Forgotten Heart. So this time I would like us to start with Aaliyah. Please could you introduce your character?
All right. Today I just whipped up a quick character. I think I was going to call him Alex Carson, he, him, a librarian type. He has some gear together. He is a leader-ish in his science laboratory and is commanding a survey drone while I'm sorry, is this after the calamity has happened? The meteor has hit? Ah, yeah. So taking a survey drone to see what has changed in the wilds and whatnot.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, next up, Casey, please could you introduce your character?
Yep, I'll be playing Emily, she, they pronouns. Emily was a environmental science student and deckhand on a research vessel at the outpost. who is also super into old photography, has like a camcorder, etc., and is here to check out what sorts of wildlife lives in this area.
Awesome. Angela, please could you introduce your character?
Yes, my character is Ophelia, uses she, her pronouns, and is the adopted sister to one of the original heads of the faction Emiliana. Uh, mu- Muscular femme, good at diplomacy. I feel like I've given Ella's favorite description for the week.
You have. Cool. Okay. Next up, Moz.
I will just want to clarify. Are they the ones who started the faction, or just part of it, right?
Not
Or
necessarily,
like,
they can be part of it. So if you want to play someone who did start the faction, you can, but they don't have to be.
okay, I am playing Silvers. That is his surname, but he goes by just Silvers, like anyway. They are they, and they are a peer of like the Innovators Union that came together. It was like collaboration of inventors, technologists, and visionaries who thought they could save the world.
Cool. Amazing. And last but not least, Syrinx, please introduce your character.
Yeah, slightly different. During the apocalypse or the fall, so to say, we see a very distant farmhouse. In it, we see an elderly woman, Cyril, mashing together some mushrooms and roots in a little bowl off to the side. And from the distance, we hear children speaking, playing, and we hear a younger woman's voice calling, Grandma, dinner's ready. And as Cyril looks up from her bowl to them, the entire house starts shaking vastly as it collapses.
Ooh, cool. Okay. All right. So we're now going to go into just a little adventure. As I said, we're kind of zoomed in this crucial moment that is going to define the next certainly few decades, if not centuries, of your family's history. It's going to maybe affect your relationships with each other. You are also looking to get resources. You can spend resources as a family on things like building wonders and also on restoring things like your surplus and your needs. Your resources are mood, data, and tech. So, tech is like actual physical objects from the world before. Data is information about the world before and the world as it is now. And mood is like your settlement's contentment. So, your family's mood will go down if you've got way more needs than surplus, for example. So, getting more supplies will improve your mood. Your mood will go up if you've got lots of surplus, or if generally you've got like good victories and stuff, things that make people feel safe. So that's the kind of things that everyone's going to be wanting to look out for. And as we've seen in the first half, all of your families are going to define what they see as like a win condition differently. So like the librarians might be specifically looking for knowledge, whereas the Aryan might be specifically looking for like objects or things to do with music and photography, etc. As I said, we're looking for the Forgotten Heart. Where are we going to begin? You have all been trekking together for about a week by this point, through the marshy, fen-like kind of plains of what was once part of Alabama. The water here is sometimes knee deep, sometimes it is over your head deep. It gets to be 2 meters, and it's very treacherous kind of land. The mud and the kind of sinking, spongy grass makes it really difficult to know where is safe to tread, what might be a real island, and what might be something that if you step on it, you're just going to sink. So it's been slow, hard going. There have also been like swarms of midges and fireflies. And whilst the fireflies are beautiful, there's something mixed in with them, something that's a slightly different glow, a slightly different color, brighter, that leaves trails like in the air. Like actually with your camcorder, Casey, Emily is able to get some beautiful kind of like photos and videos of these like strange like glow trails of like blue green light in the air. But whatever these are, when they bite you, it hurts a lot. And they move much too fast. So you've all got like little bumps, like kind of just like really intense mosquito bites. And you don't really know what the long-term effects of those are going to be. You do know that nature has changed dramatically. It's very humid, so you're all very hot and sweaty and uncomfortable. You're all very damp all the time. You never really had a chance to dry off, and so in this like slightly not ideal morale kind of mood, you eventually find your way to a very strange structure. It looks like a mountain. But to my understanding, I don't believe there are any mountains in Alabama. And since we are within a year of the fall, most of you would know that. But still, it looks like a mountain. You know that there were massive tectonic shifts following the fall because of that asteroid just crunching into the middle of a plate. However, uh, it seems impossible, unlikely that this could have just emerged out of nowhere either way. Looks like a mountain. It is covered in forest. It is massive and mighty. And in front of it, there are two things. One of them is a door. In the very center of the mountain, as if rather than being an organic structure, it is an artificial one. These huge doors, easily 30 feet tall, 20 feet wide. And along the arch of the door, there are rows and rows and rows of writing in multiple different scripts engraved into this silver white metal. And it's lots of different languages. Perhaps some of you might know one of them, but it's definitely a very interesting thing to see and find. And as you breathe in this kind of like silty, salty, slightly kind of like fishy, muddy air of the fens, you also noticed something else in front of the mountain. And that is one of the Silver Children, one of the robots that left decades ago, just left humanity behind. This robot is not what it looked like when it left. Humanity did not deliberately create robots that were like human killing machines, because that would have been, well, I mean, they did for war, I suppose, but they didn't create things that were uh, supposed to be foreign to humanity, and this looks very strange. It is 25 feet tall. It has clearly extended its limbs and torso to an just incredible degree. It is covered in fungi and moss that grow off of it almost like plate armor or some kind of cloak. And it's just kind of dripping with all of this kind of like micro life, like lichen that almost look like sleeves, and parts of it that are glowing. And inside its steel rib cage, you can see kind of like a little swarm of these strange glowing bugs that are leaving these trails behind them, almost like some kind of energy core. The robot has in one hand a massive glaive, a glaive that has to fit the height of it, which means that it's like 30 feet tall. It is a beautiful glaive that is woven over with seemingly still living vines that perhaps are living inside the steel somehow. They're flowering around its hand. And when it sees your group, it immediately kind of like lowers its weight a little bit, and its head like drops into the kind of crevice around its shoulders, because it's not a human, and the way that its limbs kind of detach and interact is not like the way a human body does. So its head kind of turtles a little bit. It lowers its center of gravity. It moves its glaive to an attack position and slowly moves 1 foot forwards. And you can see its eyes, these kind of yellow green glowing sockets, just kind of staring at you all warily. You will get the strong sense that if you step outside of the fens and onto the kind of dusty land that surrounds this doorway, you will be engaging this robot in one way or another. What would you like to do?
I'll if I can hop in. Um Not necessarily that Cyril will do anything useful towards the robot, but I imagine as they stop there looking at the building, um she kind of takes like a moment to like catch her breath and sees that everyone is like full of these mosquito bites. Um she uh looks at the robot, says, "Oh dearie me, looks like we're in a bit of trouble. Um well, we might as well take a moment here. and she takes out like a pocket from like her skirt, opens up a little like folded piece of cloth, and in it are yeah, like kind of chamomile flowers ish. She starts like rubbing it together on on her fingers and like turns to the nearest person, who Casey, who are you playing again?
Emily, who's probably still walking forward, not paying that much attention, like looking through it. So you probably have to like grab Emily's arm to
Oh,
stop her from walking.
yeah,
Just
she goes like, keep quiet
"Hmm?
for a moment. I'll
Oh,
that must be
um,
hurting you here.
oh
Um,
yeah.
and she starts like rubbing a little bit of the flowers on the bites. And she'll continue doing that to everyone as she leaves the thinking of the robot to other people for the moment.
Well, I will say then in that case, Syrinx, give me the first roll of the game. I'd like you to roll
Oh,
me Wasteland Survival. This is a little bit adapted for the situation because I'm going to be real with you. There isn't a mechanic for rubbing chamomile on people. But I want you to roll plus steel, please, and tell me what you get.
yes, I'll say I have the inherited move for her, green fingers, you know, the medical and culinary
Oh,
uses of any plant or animal you encounter, and she is an expert in scavenging, if that comes up at any
I'll
point.
give you a +1 to the roll then. So you're going to roll 2d6. You're going to add your steel +1.
All right. Um, and how do I know, sorry, what my steal is?
It is one of your character stats. So you normally get to choose a stat array when you create a quick character.
Yeah,
So
cool, have it. Okay, so and I add +1.
yes,
Uh, so I add up the two d6s as well, right?
yeah.
That's a 7.
Okay, so a 6 or less is a failure, a 7 to 9 is a mixed success, and a 10 plus is a complete success. So in this case, something happens. So what I'm gonna say is
I'm sorry, Casey.
Nope, you're good. No
What,
worries.
what I'm going to say is, you are an expert on flora. You do know what it does, and you do have survival. However, this is the first year of the apocalypse, and there's all of these new plants and animals, and they are. I don't think that you yet have learned how everything new works, and so you're kind of like, oh yeah, this is like a mosquito bite. I can use the chamomile. That's obviously a good idea, right? And you rub it on Emily's arm, and as you do, like just the bites start like sizzling, and Emily, like, it's just kind of like she feels like her arm like starting to burn, so the places where the chamomile is interacting with whatever this insect bite is, it's going badly. You are having what
Oh,
feels like an allergic reaction.
Oh, so ow, ow, ow. Can you?
no,
Sorry, that really.
everything is perfectly
Whew.
fine. You
I,
don't have
can
to
you
worry
actually?
about
I'm
it.
just. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
it
allergic.
hurts.
I'm allergic to chamomile. I'm allergic to chamomile, and I'm so. That's so nice of you. But I think maybe I will just.
I'll
It's
I'll
okay.
take a look at I'll take a look at it in a moment then.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
sure it'll
Yeah.
find its way.
That's
Trust
okay.
me.
That sounds good. As a heads up, everyone else here is also allergic to chamomile.
Beautiful. Okay. There is a 25-foot tall robot with a glaive to deal with. Would anyone like to deal with that in any way? What I will remind you is basic moves in this game. Things that you can do. You can diffuse, so you can try to de-escalate a dangerous situation by negotiating, talking, etc. You can unleash power, but right now you all can't really do that because that's basically you use a piece of tech that your family has, and none of you yet has any tech because we're immediately following the fall. You can fiercely assault, so that is the fight mechanic. So if you want to go into combat with this thing, fiercely assault is what you're going to do. Wasteland survival is more relevant to travel and things like using the land, which we just saw. And there's also find common ground, which is convincing someone to work with you. I'm going to be honest, this robot is not in a place where it wants to work with you. You're going to need to start by diffusing if you want to get to the point where you can attempt to find common ground. But yeah, and you can also call for aid, but again, a bit less relevant right now because all of the factions are represented here. So normally call for aid would be bringing in an alliance from another family. You can do it to try and reflect calling for aid from like other people in your family. So maybe you call for backup, kind of like a Gondor's Horn situation. But yeah. What would you like to do?
A question.
Yes.
Now, in this narrative, like, so with our quick characters, we would get the equipments that we chose with our families and whatnot. Is that
Yeah.
sort of like we have that to begin with here?
Yeah.
So, like, I would have a gleaming suit of power armor on with me
Oh,
because
cool.
that's
Oh,
a part
great.
of.
Okay. In
Yeah,
which
yeah.
case, fantastic.
And okay, so in my equipment I have a battered journal of tech and whatnot, possibly just a journal of stuff that happened before the fall, some morphing pistols so they're hidden and ranged, gleaming power armor, and access to scholars, and that's
Cool.
kind of my deal. However, instead of using any of that, I want to use that survey drone that I have from my inheritance move and kind of do a diffusing, like kind of fly it up, diffuse it, maybe like distract the robot so we can run into the doorway and whatnot.
Okay. Cool. So if you want to, so diffuse, you can use a bunch of different stats depending on what you're doing. I think here, we're really qualifying as fast talking or misdirection because you've said that you want to use the drone for distraction. In which case, you're going to roll plus sway. So give me 2d6 plus your sway stat. Tell me what you get.
8.
8. Okay, mixed success. On a 7 to 9, you've bought some time, but you have to choose one. The GM will demand a sacrifice to secure your safety. It's only a temporary reprieve and the danger will soon return, or the danger is still present but is threatening someone or something else.
Well, I did say that it was going, like I was using my survey drone to do this. So would think that it is momentarily distracted. It might be following the drone going that way, but we've got like a minute, maybe two, before it comes back to get to that door.
Yeah, yeah, cool. I think so. I think it's only a temporary reprieve and the danger will soon return. So we have this thing that happens where Alex sends his drone over and the robot kind of like emerges. It's almost cute. It's a little bit Wall-E-esque, where it like emerges from its like kind of attack position and it's like its head like extends up out of its body and its head kind of extends unnaturally far, like a kind of like a crane or something where like the mech just keeps going so it can follow the drone around and it's kind of like tilting its head like really interested as the drone kind of darts around it and then the drone starts moving off in a direction and the robot's like hand with the glaive just kind of falls to its side as it just starts like moving away after the drone. It's just kind of like doom, 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 as its kind of like heavy steel feet like press into the earth, and for the moment it seems distracted. Alex makes a break for the door. What's everyone else doing? For example, I would love to know what Silvers is doing. Do they follow or are they staying where they are? What's happening? And I'd love to know what Ophelia is doing as well.
Silvers is they have like salt and pepper like hair and really like untamed beard at this point. And they have a couple things. What is it? With them, it's the like a pneumatic pneumatic gun and a like environmental suit. And it looks like it's practically like a little wet, like they came from somewhere, like the submerged somewhere. So they're kind of they have like this scowling face, and even they're trying to follow, but they're kind of tired. They're kind of like a fatigue, so they're just looking this. Wait, uh, grab that glaive and like just like saying it out loud as if they've been talking to themselves for way too long. Maybe trapped somewhere under water for a long time, so they can constantly like talk out loud for a little bit. Who knows? So they are they will be trying to get that that glaive that was dropped
Oh,
as a
so
way.
it didn't drop its glaive. It lowered its arm to the side. It has
Oh,
definitely not dropped its glaive. If
I
you want to
see.
get
I
its
see.
glaive, you will have to attack the robot.
Um, he would try to sneak around behind it to see like its path backwards to see if they could
Okay, cool.
Like
I love that. I love that as an attempt. We are gonna make you roll for that. I'm so into this.
Ella, you've
Cool.
created a situation in which you did the 5e equivalent of sticking a bunch of people in front of a dragon at level 2 and being like, so all of them will run, right? And like, no, no, they're
No,
not.
like
it's a dragon.
I'm. Don't worry. I have there is method in my decision making, but yeah, I want you to. We're gonna say this kind of forge a path. So I want you to roll me 2d6 plus your force.
I love how Ella was like, I love that idea.
I love that as an attempt.
And
I love that
I
for
should
you.
say
Yeah.
you are gonna take -1 to this roll, because of the robot's abilities about perception. But tell me what you got.
That'll be a 6.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, the robot sees you. So here's what happens. Silver's he kind of comes up as quietly as he can. However, this thing that you said about how he sometimes talks to himself because he spent a really long time alone, like I think what happens is they get like right next to the robot and it hasn't seen them, and then they say to themselves, I've nearly got it. And when they speak, like, out loud, the robot, like, its head, like an owl, just turns 180 and looks down at you. And now it's looking down at you from its back, and it kind of tilts its head to the side, and then the torso turns around with the glaive, and it just raises its glaive and strikes down. It is gonna kind of it's gonna automatically hit you. It is a big old robot from the before times, so it is going to do you 3 damage. Do you have any armor?
He does.
You have an environmental suit, right?
Yeah.
What's your armor rating?
Don't know. Sorry. One
That's
second.
okay, don't worry. It's okay.
While you look for that, to recap, just to recap, we're having a
Uh-huh.
conversation about chamomile, and Silver just got hit with a glaive.
I imagine the moment that
A giant
happened.
robot glaive.
I
You're
didn't want to scream,
unaware.
but you just imagine just like, like I don't want to scream to this mic.
Okay, have you got your armor, or do you need me to help you?
No, I haven't.
That's okay. So you said it's an environmental suit. Can you tell me what tags it has?
Yes,
So
let
normally
me-
they'll be like elegant or far or like things like that.
Powered, sealed.
Powered and sealed. Okay. So powered, motors and joints remove any encumbrance, blah. Sealed, negates disadvantage stemming from lack of air. Get +1 armor when these deal harm to you. Well, that's specifically that. I'm gonna say let's just say it's 1 armor. I think that's what makes sense. So you subtract your armor from the damage you take, so you take 2 damage. Now, as a heads up, everyone in this game has 5 HP. If you get down to 5, you're gonzo. And we will have to do something about like how your family mourns you, a eulogy, and there'll be an item that's used to remember you. So this robot hits really hard. So yeah, like it not only hits you with its glaive, but actually when it hits you, it's not just the slashing damage, and the glaive does manage to cut through your environmental suit a little bit, so it actually cuts through that metal plating. It also, just the sheer force of it hitting you from this like 25-foot thing sends you flying backwards like 20 feet onto your back, like as you are hit by like the shockwave of force as it hits you. And then it immediately starts coming after you and coming back towards where the group is, where Alex is by the door. We've got Cyril and Emily like kind of just outside of like the perimeter, talking about chamomile. Where is Ophelia?
Before anything else, I just want to know a 20-foot tall robot wielding a glaive is one of the best intro scenarios I've ever
Yeah.
heard. And as someone who really loves pole arms and glaives, I'm so happy right now. If this thing were trying to kill me, I would befriend it in a minute. But,
I'm fine with what just happened so much because of the pole arm so much. I wanted to run away. Maz wanted to run away, but I saw the pole arm and I was like,
I
oh,
can't.
well.
It's hurting me, and yet I'm okay with this outcome. My thought is that so I have an inheritance move, which is that I have a loyal steed.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna invoke the bear already
Yes,
because I think
invoke
it's
the
freaking
bear.
amazing. Which hashtag invoke the bear, everybody. Get it now. My thought is that actually I think she passes. She's been more back of the group watching it and just sort of has watched Alex go do a thing, and it's like, okay, that was mildly sensible, and then watch Silvers do that, and it's like that was less sensible. Oh dear, there's a giant robot going after them. Okay, Cyril, dear, Cyril, would you like Gertrude? She like pets the like crook of this massive bear that's right next to her, that's been chilly, like casually just traveling with everybody. She just has a bear. Would you like to watch over Gertrude, or would you like her to come with me to talk with the robot?
Oh, let the sweet thing stay here. And she like gives it a little like you take the head between the hands. It's like a little whoosh 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 whoosh. She does that. She's like, oh, you're such a good one.
I will happily play all animals, by the way.
Amazing
Anyways,
method.
um, I think actually she just very casually walks up and like tries to call out to said massive robot. Hello there.
Okay. So I'm gonna need you to roll. So this would definitely qualify as diffuse. If you are trying to intimidate the robot, you roll plus force. If you are trying to like persuade it, you're gonna roll plus sway.
Uh, I think against my better judgment, I'm going to use sway because I think in this situation she's skilled in diplomacy.
Okay.
So she's trying being the key word here.
I'll give you a +1 for being skilled in diplomacy. Give me a roll and tell me how it goes.
Yep, I
Just to
foresee.
paint a picture for you here while we wait. I imagine that at this moment when Alex moves off, Cyril looks at Emily, looks at the open doorway now because there's no one guarding it, and goes like, "Oh, it looks like we can go inside." And just starts casually walking with the bear with Emily, not aware of the danger Silvers is in.
At the point at which Silver goes flying across my camcorder screen, I'm going to pause the video and keep going.
So my love, that would be 5.
That's a 5. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you say hello, which alerts the robot to your presence. It
Yes, I'm
attacks you.
aware. I'm
And
aware. I chose this
again,
path of my own volition.
it does 3 damage. What is your armor?
My armor is it is improvised armor, so I doubt it is of any
It
use in the
may
situation.
not actually absorb this, I'm afraid. Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
yes. I assume given that it is described as tough and utility.
yeah. Oh wait, no, it's described as tough. That actually is a tag that normally means
Resist.
something. Give me a second. Boop, 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 boop. Gear, outfit, boop, boop. Utility, yeah, can be easily repaired, and tough negates disadvantage stemming from physical impacts. Blah. I'm gonna say like yeah, definitely take a +1 to armor from tough.
So
So
I
please,
suffer much of the similar fate the silver
yes, yeah.
silver did.
Um, so what I'm also gonna let you all know is, so you all have 5 hit points. When you have taken 3 or 4 damage, you are injured in a severe way, which means that it is like a like significant injury that is going to cause you harm for the rest of the session. So like 1 or
Excellent.
2 points of damage is like bruising and being winded. It hurts at the time, but you're able to shake it off. But 3 or 4 damage, that's like you are bleeding heavily. You've maybe broken a bone, like that kind of level of thing. So if either Silvers or Ophelia get hit again, they are gonna be in a really bad way.
Listen,
So
I tried not to go straight to violence first.
you know what, and I respect that. I really do. Unfortunately, you rolled a 5.
One, I rolled a 5, and 2, I chose to negotiate with someone who doesn't want to talk to me.
like I will say like a great thing about this game, and you know, in many ways I kind of said to the players off screen that like playing the full in legacy often feels a bit like a tutorial level, as it's like learning these moves. Like this is a new system to a lot of us. Is legacy is designed for combat to move very quickly, so you can actually resolve a combat in one roll. So if you had gotten a 10 plus, the robot would have stopped attacking attacking immediately. And the same with like if you choose to attack it, even on a mixed success, it may just choose to leave you alone, depending on kind of what you choose. So I just want to reassure everyone that like you can actually deal with this with one roll. Just unfortunately, we've had a couple real low rolls. So next up, we've got Alex is at the door. With this strange writing all along the arch in multiple different languages. This is very much like Rosetta Stone territory of like whoever engraved the writing on this door wanted it to be possible for people in multiple languages to read and to understand how to read those multiple languages. But the doors themselves, these big steel doors, are currently closed, and you can see no clear like handle or lock mechanism that is going to let you get in. You suspect, I'm going to give you this one for free, that the clue might be in the writing around the door, that has been so deliberately written in multiple languages. But before we kind of resolve that, Emily, is there anything that you would like to do?
Emily would like to run. Emily would at this point like to run. And, but as they do so, I think they're gonna turn to Cyril and be like, "We should run. No, no, no. Why aren't we running?" And then is going to take off running. And as she does, I think she's gonna try to like put the camcorder away. Also, her arm is burning, and I think she probably doesn't want to be holding something like that she really cares about. So instead, as she's running, she's gonna pick up like a little cassette tape recorder and like she's narrating a little log is going to be like, "So day 5, we're running away from the robot, and I really don't."
I love that. That makes me so happy. Okay, so I'm gonna say that we can call this either a forge a path, so roll plus force, or if you don't want to roll with force, then you can also call this wasteland survival, which is plus steel.
I feel like
So
there's
roll
very
with
little forging that's being done, so I think Wasteland Survival sounds
cool.
good.
Okay, so roll me plus steel and tell me what you get.
Okay, you got it. Oh, I got a 10.
Yeah,
I have a +1, so I have a 10.
The first good roll we've had so far.
And it's Emily narrating into her cassette recorder. That robot doesn't look very good. I'm thinking
well,
it's got some fungal growth over its.
We're making a found footage film, so obviously you need to survive until like the end of the movie when the giant robot picks you up and eats you. Or
That's
something.
gonna be a real good podcast, I'll tell you that.
um, I'm gonna say that so normally with this you get to pick one, but again we're being a little flexible with the rules to accommodate like a slightly fixed scenario. I'm gonna say that we're gonna that Emily discovers a secret path from
Great.
the looks of things. So she basically like as she's running away sees like another way in where like time and the elements in this massive natural disaster have actually like caused like a little cave-in collapse that like means that you can actually run inside the building, and it is small enough for like a 5 to 6 foot tall human. It is not small enough for a 25 foot tall robot. So you see a way in that you could get inside without drawing the robot's attention. Now this is a way to circumnavigate the door, but Alex, if there's anything that you want to do at the door with that writing before you leave, you're very welcome to do that.
Well, I
Yes.
definitely want to look at the writing and see like what it says specifically for the phrases beware all who enter, this is not a place of honor.
Or please feel welcome. There's cookies inside.
Abandon all hope ye who enter here.
I will say, like, the kind of nuclear waste to like ruins is absolutely my inspiration for this landmark. Roll me plus law, please.
That one was that's a 10.
Nice. Okay. So what I was making you do was do the unearthed forgotten lore roll. On a 10 plus, you can ask 3 of the following 4 questions. First, is that a wonder or a horror? Second, where is it drawing power from? Third, what dangers is it hiding? Fourth, how can I turn it to my advantage?
Okay, sorry, what were the first 2 again?
Is that a wonder or a horror? Where is it drawing power from? What
Okay.
dangers is it hiding? How can I turn it to my advantage?
So the question I don't want to answer is if it's a wonder or a horror.
Okay.
The answers to the other 3 sounds
All right. So in terms of dangers, is it hiding? You notice rust on the steel of the door, which by this point, following the fall, you recognize as the result of salt water on this kind of metal. So you suspect that inside this building, there's going to be quite a lot of flooding, and that you're going to be needing to navigate like submerged passages. But you don't see any other reason to expect that there's any like further like traps or something like this robot. In terms of where it's drawing power from, definitely inside. You actually like when you touch the doors, you can feel like the faintest kind of hum of vibration, like metal conducting something. Like it's clearly powered up. This maybe is an electronic door that is currently sealed. But whatever is powering it, it's definitely not out here. It would need a very big generator. You can't see anything around that is clearly doing it, so it's going to be inside. And how can I turn it to my advantage? You notice that along the like writing on this door in what language does Alex speak? Is it English or
It's English, yeah.
yeah. So Alex notices like that there is like something like, and you didn't notice it at first because like I said before, these doors are really tall. They're like 30 feet high. So like trying to read writing from 30 feet away is not easy. But you notice that way up there, it mixed in among the writing is it's essentially like a message written in code, but it tells you a passphrase to get the robot, the guardian, to stand down, which is Bumblebee. And if you say that, it will stand down. So yes, that's what you get from your roll. I'm also going to say that you do get normally if you succeed on a forgotten lore roll, you get +1 data for your family. But I'm actually going to say that by getting if you choose to get like a rubbing or something, or like of this of this extract of language, this kind of Rosetta Stone, you will take +3 data, which is going to be a big resource for your family, as just having this evidence of the languages of the world before will be very, very useful to you in the decades and centuries to come.
And yeah, no, I totally will do that. That is a thing that Alex is very much in key in. The fact that it's got all of these different languages and phrases in the same, or the same phrase in different languages, is unbelievable. So yeah, absolutely taking a sketching of that. With that, I can follow Emily back into where she's ducked in. Excellent. So we'll go ahead and do that.
Cool. Okay. I'm gonna move us fairly swiftly, but past this bit because we have found a way through. Cyril, what you doing?
I'll just say that she is awkwardly trying to instruct the bear to lift Silvers, who's like hurt now, so that they can kind of drag them towards like into the building, but they're not gonna lift them themselves. They can't do that, so they're like awkwardly getting the bear to do that and getting them inside.
Did we say the
He's
bear is
doing.
called Gertrude Angela?
Gertrude, yes. If you would like, you can call her Gertie.
Sorry, Muzz.
Yeah, Silver's just like, what are you doing? No, that hurts. What is this creature doing? What are you asking it to do? Just like
It'll be
slowly as
better
it's,
inside.
what's inside? Oh, okay.
Shush, shush.
Oh, okay. I can
You're
walk.
hurting yourself by talking.
Oh, I'm not hurting myself by talking now.
Cool, amazing. And yeah, I think that kind of what happens here is like Cyril attempts to communicate with Gertie. We're going to explore more about like Gertie and Ophelia's relationship in the future, but in kind of like flashbacks and knowledge that the faction has about the emergence of the relationship between the Valkyries and the Bears. But for now, like I think rather than Gertie necessarily following Cyril's instructions, Gertie is just very smart, and so she sees this like injured person and this like older lady kind of waving her hands, and Gertie's just like, oh cool, like I know what to do, and kind of like nudges and like
100%.
lifts Silvers up onto her. And yeah, we'll follow the others inside, which leaves Ophelia as the only person outside with this robot. Did Alex choose to use the passphrase to use it?
Yes, yes, they did. That was a like over here, Bumblebee. Love
As,
it.
as soon as Alex says Bumblebee, the robot actually just like completely like relaxes. Its shoulders drop down. It straightens up into a much more casual position, and it just kind of tilts its head at you all, and then just stays there. It doesn't move. It doesn't need to breathe. It doesn't feel any need to be restless. So it just stands there staring at you, not moving. So Ophelia, like with this context, what would you like to do?
I definitely think before it just relaxed, there was like if someone had looked at her previously, it'd have been like, oh, this woman doesn't look that dangerous. And then she has two pistols like out from her like her sleeves that did makes no sense that they should have been there, but they were like aimed at it, and she's like, fine. Like she's like ready, basically ready to scrap in like half a second. She's like, all right, we'll take the easier route. You win this round, robot, and just tries to like very painfully walk over to where everyone else is.
Okay, so yeah, like bruised and battered for Silvers and Ophelia, you get inside kind of through this rubble and you come into this beautiful kind of atrium almost like and it's hard to tell whether the building is made of like white steel or marble. It smells very clean in here. It doesn't have that kind of silty sour kind of taste to the air that the marshes did. And there's this flickering rippling light across the ceiling that I think Silvers in particular is A, going to really recognize and B, might find beautiful, I don't know, but is the reflection of water flickering across. And when you look down, you see that there's this like staircase clearly leading to like a deeper building complex, like a wide staircase. It looks like the entrance to like a very formal library, but it is completely flooded. And there is this like very clean looking, very transparent, clear water in front of you. So you're essentially in this massive hall with a huge flooded staircase in front of you. The only way forward is through a flooded tunnel of indeterminate length. What would you like to do?
Oi, oi, oi. So, does anyone have like an environmental suit or something to be able to get through this water, or are we gonna like just try and swim that?
I have utility gear, which is thermo. Also, Emily's a great swimmer. I think also read history on a research vessel has like a dry bag, like a really reliably super good dry bag that is where she keeps all of her stuff. So I think she's gonna like toss the camcorder and the everything in the dry bag, seal it really tight, like double everything, make sure it's good, and turn to Silvers and go, "How long can you hold your breath?"
I don't know. You want to test it?
Let's find out. And is going to grab Silvers, if by the hand, if Silvers is cool with that, and just jump into the water.
Just for weight and like how quickly, and also he is injured. I did what is it, choose that he is a larger, like heavy set person. So as you're pulling, you're like, oh, just like a large grunt, just like, oh, wait, and just starts running to like, oh, hold on, and just like holding in the little piece that like came out from the glaive. Oh, no, wait, no, this guy's gotta patch this, and like wants to pull out like something quick, like tape or something that they've carried, and just start like wrapping whatever they have. Like, I gotta seal it all. And just like goes around.
Cyril was definitely thinking of like, oh, I'll help this person, but they're doing this all very quickly. So she's like just looking and like, oh no, but like in her head, like, oh no, yeah, oh, young people these days.
And Silvers has that too, but being like having the suit to be part of the water, knowing like fully how it needs to be, they're just patting themselves down and just like ready to jump in with you.
Amazing. So I would like I'm gonna say that one of you is gonna roll and one of you is gonna help. And since we're kind of in the first session, I'm not gonna make you spend treaty on this, but in future, for families to help each other, normally you need to spend treaty. And I will say that the thing that we are gonna do is in Legacy, when you help someone else, you take the consequences whether you succeed or fail. So that means that if you fail, both of you get affected by the failure, not just the person rolling. But if you succeed, then both of you get the benefit. And I'm going to say that this is a Forge a Path roll. So in that case, you're going to need to roll with force. So which one of you would like to roll and which one of you would like to help?
I can roll first.
You should roll. You should roll.
Okay, cool. So Moz, add +1 to your roll from Emily helping Silvers, and roll me +4, please.
That's a 6 and a 6 plus 2.
Woo! Yes.
Emily, get on
Okay.
my back. We're going.
Yeah.
The shitty rolls.
That is essentially a critical success. So yeah, okay, cool. Describe to me how in like absolute incredibly cool style Silver's like just like fully like kills this part of the mission. Like you find a way through the flooding, you find a way to get rid of the flooding so the others can follow you. There's no danger. You do it all in style. You do it very quickly. Like just give me this cool moment, please.
Silvers with his injury kind of and everything sealed together feels at home. Once he has everything together, he has years of experience swimming. So he has like larger lungs. So when he takes a deep breath and pulls Emily through, it looks as if he's part fish, ready to jump in. He just straight away takes charge and gets like into that mode of I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. Let's get this done.
Hell yeah. Okay, so he swims down this staircase and you come out into like what essentially kind of looks like a reception hall, like a visitor center. And you see like kind of various like these beautiful frescoes that have already been like quite faded by the water, but you can still see a little bit of them in the ceiling as you swim close to it. Various kind of lamp fixtures that are long since dead essentially. But eventually you see like a hard manual lock for essentially like a drain function. And you're able to drain the room. And you also see a door like leading you forward. You can see that this is clearly like kind of heading somewhere important. There's a couple of like various signs around it. Again, they're written in the multiple languages that the main doors were written in a way that like other doors are not like quite as heavily indicated or kind of decorated. So you suspect that this is clearly the way forward. And for Cyril, Ophelia, and Alex, yeah, it's like 10 minutes tops until suddenly like the water's like draining away, and there's this yeah kind of sucking sound as the water disappears. And I'm gonna say like on top of all that also, like we've said that Silvers has this kind of salt and pepper hair thing going on. He looks really really cool. Like it's a bit hot, like it's a bit hot in a kind of like in a bit of a dilf way, you know, like
Oh yes, I
Elvis Elba.
imagined him to be like Mads Mikkelsen coming out of the water with like a diving suit on. So
yeah, for sure. Like it's just really fucking cool. And it makes an impression on all of you. Like, you know, you have this moment of being like, "Oh, holy shit. This is a person who is going to survive the apocalypse." Yeah.
This is the actual reason that the Aegis wanted to be around the songbird. This was our actual, like they believed in our cause and everything, but this is the actual reason why we wanted to be around.
he like comes out of the water, just like spits the some of it that was left in. He's like, all done, and just like walks off.
Damn, they're hot, but they're fish people. But they're hot.
But yes, they're
I don't see how one of those negates the.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yes,
bad
we
for a fish person, unless they're one of the aquatic mammals, in which case, you know. Anyway, uh, we move forward. We get to these doors, and the doors open once the water has fully drained from the room, and it takes quite a long time for that to happen. So by the time that has happened, your entire group has come down into this visitor center, which is kind of gleaming and glittery with water, and Cyril, you're actually the person to notice as these doors open in this direction that Silvers has kind of identified as your best route forward. Um, there is a person sitting in the hall. They are wearing a lab coat, and their hands and face and neck are kind of like bulging with like growing with this strange gently glowing violet fungus. It's kind of like those like platform fungus that kind of come off the side of trees. But as it lives there, they are kind of like breathing. They're breathing very slowly, but they are definitely alive. What would you like to do?
So clarification, were they in a part that was previously flooded?
No, so they were
Okay.
behind the doors. So this kind of visitor center area was flooded, and then they were behind these like sealed doors. But now that the water's gone away, the doors have opened.
Yeah, cool. She takes out a handkerchief, holds it up to her mouth and nose, because of the fungal thing, and she kind of like approaches tentatively, bows down, tries to like um crouch down, her knees kind of stopping her for a moment, but still trying to do it. As she a meter away asks like, dear, are you all right there?
The person, they have these freckles and this tan skin and big curly hair. And when they look up at you, their dark brown eyes have a ring of kind of violet light inside them. And as they breathe, kind of this mist of like violet spores comes out of their mouth, and they say, "I think so. I don't know how, because I've been in here for, I don't remember. There was an explosion outside, and then I sat down. And you all know that it has been about like 10 months since the asteroid hit. Um, but this person looks at you and says, is everyone okay?
D- don't worry about others for now. Do you know who you are?
Uh, yeah, my name is Amanita Corello. I work here. I'm a botanist. And like she kind of this person looks down at their hands, and like there's just like this kind of just like various kind of like frilling of kind of fungi along their fingers. I um I don't know what happened to me.
Dear, I think Ophelia steps up following Cyril. Ophelia's quite tall. I'd put her at least like 6'2", 6'3", because I always make tall gals. Uh, I think how tall is this person? Are they sitting down or
They're
are they?
sitting down, and I think they're quite short. They're about 5 foot tall. Um,
I love short smalls. It's great. She like leans down. She's still keeping her distance, and she's sort of like given like a click click sound to Gertrude to just try and like to indicate just be careful, girl, about.
Gertrude kind of like wrinkles her nose, then like sneezes, like, and then kind of shakes her head a bit, and like all of the fur and kind of like fat on her body kind of ripples a little bit, and then she kind of like just like carefully kind of walks past, and her claws like click on this kind of hard floor. As she walks past, like kind of watching this like person as she does.
Are
And
you?
I'll say to you, sorry, I was just going to say, as you approach, Cyril will offer you another handkerchief because she's holding one in front of her nose and mouth for the fungal thing.
Dear, she gets closer to this person's level, still keeping like at least a few feet of distance. But do you need help?
Maybe. I think I've been, and she kind of reaches up and touches like this like cup of fungus that like is it's almost like jewelry like decorating her face, this like violet kind of glowing cup that just like gently kind of like follows the line of her cheek, and she touches it very carefully. I think I've already been being helped somehow, but I wouldn't say no. I don't really know what I am anymore.
Well,
Um,
if it helps, I'm more than happy to help protect you. And like it's very clear, like she's tried to hide it, but like she's pulled back her like the sleeves of some of her clothes and such, and there's a lot of like bruises and marks all over her body.
oh, that looks painful. Can I? And she reaches out, but then kind of pauses, noticing the distance between you.
You don't earn people's trust by not giving them a reason to trust you.
You offer your hand, and you notice this kind of swirl of purple magenta like spores surround her fingers, and she touches you, And as she touches you, some of those spores kind of like wreathe your arm for a second, and it's almost like a kind of like pastel powdery smoke. And as the spores travel up your arm, you feel this kind of anesthetic almost feeling of like the bruises going away. And when the spores kind of fade and disperse, the bruises are gone. And she kind of withdraws her hand.
There's a tension she's had in her body the entire time they've been walking or going. There's been like little bits of pain everywhere she's been, but it's the kind of thing where it's like, oh, is today a 3 or is today a 7? After a certain point, some it won't really matter. It still have to do things sometimes, and it's just like a moment of a like what the sensation of a 0 day would be, which sounds impossible to imagine. How did you do that?
I like I don't really know. I think they helped me. I think I think I was helped. I was hurt, and there wasn't any food or drink, and I was trapped. But I didn't die. I'm not dead. Am I? I'm not dead.
No, you're not dead. I... What are your plans?
I don't know. Are you here for the seed vault?
Yes. Seed vault?
Yeah, like it's just in case anything bad ever happens. We have a collection of seeds from all around the world to
Ah,
grow into crops.
yes,
I,
yes.
I'm a botanist. I work here.
Can
I
you
don't know what
show
the explosion was outside. Sorry?
can you show us?
The seed vault? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And she kind of like you get very much get the sense as she moves, like dust falls off her lab coat and off her clothes, like heavy layers of dust. And she moves for the first time and like starts trying to get stiffly to her feet, like clearly in like a little bit of like pain. Um,
It gestures to have um actually she'll do this herself. She'll just like sort of gesture to Gertrude to be close to Cyril in case Cyril needs any help with walking or moving around. And she like offers like her arm. Ophelia does. Here.
this person takes Ophelia's arm, Amanita, and kind of pulls herself to her feet and is like, whew. And as she kind of says that, this swirl of spores like surrounds her for a moment and then disperses. And you see this like kind of like various spores like almost highlighting her hair. It's like purple light along like these black curls. And she kind of blinks and goes, okay, yeah, I remember the way. The power never turned off. We managed to the emergency generator worked the way it was supposed to. So yeah, this way. Um and we are getting towards the end of our hour, so I'm going to kind of pull us into a little bit of a montage. But just before we do, I'm going to say that next session will open with the turning of the age. So we'll kind of open with like introducing our new characters and deciding like what happens to our families. So for now, we're just going to resolve this little mini story of kind of this moment when your factions work together, when the songbirds like a facilitated passage through, when the librarians discovered this important Rosetta Stone to their history, when we had a moment where the Aryan proved that they were valuable not only for their ability to get things and sell things, but also to find a way through and to travel no matter what. And when we had a moment that the Edenites first just generally prove their medical skill, but perhaps this person and who she is and what she might tell you will do more. And again, we saw the Valkyrie protecting everyone and facilitating their passage, no matter who they were, and trusting and choosing to trust in this moment in a way that might have perhaps won some trust with the Edenites for what will happen in future. But just before we kind of wrap up, on the way through, Emily notices, like in the annals of your family's history, no one will be ever sure, and I think Emily herself wasn't sure why she noticed this glitter, this gleam of steel in the dark, just in a recess, just in an alcove. This thing wasn't considered to be as precious as it would become. Um, but Emily, you notice this kind of pedestal And there's this like oblong kind of object on the pedestal, and it's covered in this kind of like dark black engraved writing. Would you like to touch it?
I would absolutely like to touch it.
You touch it, and there's this kind of vroom, and blue light races up the pedestal, and as it does, it all centers into this little rhombus, this little object, and then the object gets this like absolute pinpoint of light in the very center of it, which glows and glows and then explodes. And as it explodes, you see this sudden like massive sphere of light. It is an enormous, extremely detailed holographic map of the entire globe. Um, and you can see like various kind of like pins like reaching out from different locations. Would you like to try and touch the hologram?
Yeah, I think Emily is like fully you can see the light reflected in her irises. Like she is locked it, like so laser focused on this. Absolutely.
Where do you touch a specific location or just anywhere?
Oh my gosh. I think Emily's was studying in California, but I think her family is from Oregon, like the Oregon coast. I think she's going to touch the Oregon coast.
Okay. So she touches it, and as she does, the map like flickers and changes and suddenly zooms in. And it zooms into like street level. And you can actually see like almost like ghostly silhouettes of people walking, kind of like Google Street View of like just the moment that this was like taken and mapped. You can see like your childhood home in the building that it was. You can see trees. Um, you can see enormous detail.
Do I
Um,
think this is the present or the past? Or am I
This is
sure?
the recent past, so it's not post-apocalypse. This was definitely made before the fall, but it was made within a year or two of the fall. You also notice, like as you interact with it, that this little rhombus thing on the pedestal, it's clear that the pedestal is charging it, but the rhombus itself can just be picked up and seems to contain the hologram.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think Emily's gonna watch it for a moment, just a long enough moment to see a hologram of a little girl, not her, but longer hair, shorter, playing with maybe a bike along the side of the street and riding it up and down and up and down, and just watch that for a minute, and then whatever she can do to try to turn it off, close it, like stop the hologram, take her hand off,
Touch it
um,
again.
and hold the rhombus in her palm, and take out her cassette tape recorder, click it on, and go, log day 3. I think I found something important.
Beautiful. And yes, you'll take +3 tech for your family, as this is a very, very, very precious wonder, and will change the path of the Aryan faction, and give them the ability to wander the world in the way that they do. Um, this new woman, Amanita, takes you to the seed vault, and as she goes on her way, she starts talking to Cyril, and I think Syrinx, if it's okay with you, given that Cyril is an expert on flora and fauna, Amanita, as a botanist, probably massively enjoys talking to Cyril about plants and about flora, and kind of meeting someone who is also like fascinated by living things, and specifically botany, is going to kind of develop a real warmth towards Cyril, I think, on the way. Do you think that sounds right for Cyril as well?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I doubt Sarah would bring it up at this point because it's like a bit touchy. But she would assure her that everything's going to be fine, and like take a look at the fungal on her as well. She won't bring it up unless yeah, the other person brings it up. Um, but she'll definitely already like try to think of like what type of fungal is this, like how like bad is it to like breathe it in, to that kind of stuff. But she would definitely be warm and be very reassuring to this person because she can imagine that not knowing about everything that happened is maybe even scarier than knowing. So yeah.
Cool. Okay, so as we draw to a close, we are right at the end of our time. I'm gonna say, you find the seed vault, and that seed vault is what means that everyone survives for another year. That seed vault is what allows the world to start to rebuild in a really meaningful way, to start growing crops, to start having food. Amanita, after this adventure, asks Cyril if she can stay with her, because Amanita also has an interest in you learning about these fungi, and she thinks that perhaps together you and she can learn a bit more about like what happened to her. And over the last years of Cyril's life, and the rest of Amanita's life, you do learn an awful lot. And so I'm going to say that the Edenites are going to take +3 data from this encounter, this formative encounter that really like allows you to get the knowledge that starts off what will later become like the core philosophy of the Edenites. And finally, Angela, the Aegis, also like oh wait, no, not finally. Angela and Moz, because we have two things to get. So Angela, the Aegis, are very needed in that first year. Because you come out of that seed vault with essentially like a continent's worth of treasure for the survivors, and someone needs to keep the peace and make sure that, like we've discussed, the poor, the marginalized, people who are less able to defend themselves aren't left out, and aren't left out of the food, and aren't left out of the stores and supplies. And the way that I would like to reflect this is that I'd like to give you 3 treaty points to spend as you like at the start of the next session. So we're gonna say in this first age that the Aegis have a little bit more influence than they might do in later ages, because in this first age, keeping the peace, keeping that safety, maintaining the balance is really, really important. I just want to check in with my players because it gives like Antler quite a lot of influence at the start of the game. Is everyone okay with this? Okay, cool. So yep, you have 3 treaty, and finally, Moz. So the songbirds are the people who made it possible to even get to this seed vault. But we also like as time goes on, there's this decision to go into the sea, and I'm really excited next session to learn from you like why Silvers does that, and like how like Silvers as a character leads to what will become the songbirds. But I'd like to give it to you as a choice. As you might be noticing, I'm giving everyone a +3 resource in something just to start off our campaign. Would you like it to be that the songbirds find +3 data, so maybe they learn something when they go into the ocean, like over time, or maybe Silvers themselves learn something? Would you like it to be +3 tech, so maybe they find something like down there that no one else knows exists, and that's what like kind of allows them to start building this? Would you like it to be +3 mood? So maybe just like the solidarity of like creating this community of like-minded people and escaping kind of the conflict that's happening on the land means that like your faction is in a much better place than other factions are in terms of like the tension and the scarcity of these first years? Or would you like to take +3 treaty? And what I'll say for that is just the reputation that the songbirds develop as a kind of semi-mythical reputation of like being the reason that we were able to find the seed vault, because it kind of becomes like unanimously understood that if like Silvers hadn't had that tech, then they wouldn't have even found the way down there, and like kind of your point in this mission was so crucial that I think over time Silvers themselves kind of becomes a bit of an urban legend. And stories about Silvers kind of blur together. Some people say that he was wearing an environmental suit, some people say that he could literally breathe water. And so I think I want to give you 3 treaty points to spend as you like to kind of reflect that like almost semi-mythical status that the songbirds have among the population. What would you like?
That's way too good. I like just for that part because I wanted him to be known as Steam Heart's origin.
Ah, that's so cool. Yeah, okay, amazing, fantastic, brilliant. I love it. All right, with that, with the legend of Steamheart, we will draw our first session to a close. Thank you very much everyone for watching. We really appreciate you all, and I hope you've enjoyed this first session. We've got many more to go with Legacy. We're going to meet many more characters. We're going to get to know these factions. We're going to see what happens to the world as it all develops. But for now, we're going to say goodbye. For my players, I would like it if you could please all tell us your real name, pronouns, where we can find you on the internet, and just anything you want to signal boost. Starting with Casey.
Yep, my name's Casey, and I use they them pronouns. I can be found on the internet at the Casey Fleming, pretty much anywhere. Yep.
Gorgeous. Next up, Aaliyah.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah Hudson. I go by Aaliyah the Sorceress online. You can find me on Twitter most of the time, but we're working on that. Blue Sky, basically anywhere there's socials, and it's Leah the Sorceress or some variation on that.
Gorgeous. Syrinx.
Hi, I am Syrinx. She, her. You can find me as Syrinx on Twitter and Instagram. And I play a bunch of TTRPGs on there and cosplay. So yeah, thank you.
Heck yeah. Angela.
Hello there, lovely people. My name is Angela Lemos Morveja. I use she, they pronouns, and you can find me most social media places at Phoenix24Fem. And soon on Start Playing Games, I will hopefully be doing some one shots throughout, starting to put up some games there and doing one shots in June, likely at least a Monster Hearts one shot of having a debaucherous good time in a castle out in the woods. Where people can maybe become their darkest self at will, question mark, with no repercussions, because I know who my audiences are. You're all degenerates and I love every single one of you.
And last but certainly not least, Moz.
Hi everyone, I'm Maz or Megan Wright. I am a voice actor and usually I'm on socials at it's Mozzarella and also run wonderful like art teach RPG stuff and we were doing like Kids on Brooms and Blades in the Dark at Starcrawl RPG. So if you see me at either it's and you see like why is this person following, it's me.
Cool. Okay, I'm Ella. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me on the internet at GEJ Watts. I just wrapped my podcast Camlan, which is a kind of post-apocalyptic audio drama. As I love an apocalypse. And you've been watching Girls Around These Worlds. So on this Sunday, we have the finale of our Dragon Age game, All Templars Are Bastards, with GM Hummerloo. Travel across the high seas with a devastatingly handsome crew from 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I am in that game. I play a very curmudgeonly doctor, and I'm having a great time. On Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern, you can watch season 2 of our Auriga Stars campaign. Join the cast as they return to the high fantasy world of Auriga with Disaster Master Ultra Mirage. And on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, we've got Roll for Luck. If you're a long-time viewer of Girls Run These Worlds, you'll already be familiar with this wonderful show. This is Roll for Luck Sparked. Join the Suffix of Luck on their train as a job tries to go off the rails. I really enjoy the fact that they wrote that with a little ellipsis. It gave me a lot of joy. Okay. Follow Girls from These Worlds on various social platforms, and if you ever want to, you can watch back our streams on YouTube as well. So do subscribe over there. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed our game, and that we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everyone.